You're listening to Well, I Laughed, Part 3 of In the Bag. Send less help.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so let's go ahead and start this episode. Maia, it's been a day for me. A child came to school on a horse.
What?
And if you're one of our listeners from Nebraska, you're like, sure, that's not weird. Like, I teach in Denver, like city and county, not one of the suburbs, Denver proper. And a child showed up to school today on a horse.
Yeah.
Because today was senior ditch day. And also senior prank day.
What did he do with the horse once he was there?
Well, so actually the real thing, it was honestly the perfect crime. And he might have been involved in the Gardner heist. So basically they do stuff inside, which they do every year. There's like streamers, they like taped a bunch of red Solo cups to the ceiling, which I thought was funny. And there's like just enough distraction inside the building for us to be like, oh, it all happened inside the building. Oh, also they parked a car in the cafeteria. As they do. And so we're all like, it's on the inside. And then we get a staff G-chat and they're like, hey, sorry, the bell's already rang, but I just figured someone should know there's like a horse on the track right now. And Adam would go outside and there's like 100 students, all seniors, watching one of our seniors race his horse down the racetrack like we use for track and field.
I think I hate it. I'm not 100% sure though.
I don't know. I mean, that horse had to walk on like pavement to get to school. It's not like there was a horse trailer waiting
Which
nearby.
is, as long as it's walking, that's fine.
Right. Also, I think you're allowed just to ride your horse in Denver.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. I know you definitely can in Lakewood.
I mean, you most horseback riders won't because there's a lot of accidents that happen.
Well, most horse riders aren't trying to miss a day of high school.
That's fair. But even when I was riding horses in high school, I wasn't smart, but at least I knew not to.
She got into mine. She was plenty smart.
Ride my horse, and I mean, if it's in it's like a suburb in Denver, right? It's not like Denver.
My school?
Yeah. I mean, it's in Denver,
it's
but
on
it's
Federal
not.
Boulevard.
Yeah, but it's not like in the city.
What do you mean by in the city?
Like 16th
downtown?
Street Mall.
No.
Yeah. I feel like it's enough of a suburb.
There's an RTD stop that runs every 15 minutes right next to us, though.
Yeah, but it's still a suburb. Like, you still have space.
You come to my neighborhood and you think, oh, Grant, this is the suburbs?
Have you seen where I live?
Yes.
That's a city.
Okay. We're the same city. Why are we having this fight right now? Anyways, saw the horse out of Maia, and then my day continued. So in addition to starting off the day with a child on a horse, I then afterwards went to this cute little estate sale for this artist, the guy who did the big blue Denver bear at the Denver Convention Center.
Yes, we have two blue animals.
Blucifer.
Yes.
Who's on my hat.
And then a big blue bear.
A giant blue bear.
That's like 3 stories tall outside of the Denver Convention Center. And it's like, its paws look like, it's like standing on its hind legs and its paws are like against the window and it looks like it's looking inside.
Right. It's super adorable.
It's very cute.
Anyways, that artist passed away. And so they were selling all this stuff at an estate sale. And I went to it. And it was a blast and a half. Couple of things. First, I don't know what you envision from like an estate sale. But yes, that's who was there. It was like every single person. I rushed there basically right after school.
Yeah.
So I was confused why a 7 and 9-year-old were there. I'm like, did your parents pull you out of school early? Or were they like first in the pickup line to be like, come on, let's go. The estate sale's about to begin. Like, if so, how wonderful. Like, those kids are off to go get like sushi and quinoa and probably have like a weird relationship with a former babysitter. But like,
I want sushi now.
I mean, we can make that happen. I actually had so many noodles before. Anyway, so like they're there, and then there is this like fabulous older gay couple that's going around, and they like clearly they know like they know what they know, kind of stuff. And so they're there, and then one of their friends shows up, and I watched this entire nonverbal exchange happen. Excuse me, I'll narrate it in a second, but essentially, a third gentleman, one of their friends, walks in. He looks around and he goes. And the one on the line goes. And then he like looks for a little helper, but like he like does this. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I also had looked at that painting, but I didn't have $500 to spend this afternoon. I'm still in 104 at my public teacher job, but I was like, no, it's not first. And I knew it was cool. I doesn't have the money for it. And so that was happening. And then I saw this woman, and she had like fur kind of like leggings on. But you know the leggings that cut off at the knee? You know what I mean? Like they don't continue upwards. So she had that, and then she had the same...
Wait, sorry. They don't continue upwards?
Correct. So it's just knee to ankle.
So like a leg warmer?
Yes, that's the word.
Okay,
Thank
I was
you.
like...
She has two like kind of huge leg warmers.
I love that.
And then she has the same thing on just her forearms. And then she has like this cute little sporty jacket and like a midriff or whatever. And I'm like, okay, it's 4:15, 4:30, but like pop off.
Yeah, are you late for jazzercise?
Right, part of me is like so fascinated by it.
Yeah.
And then a man in a giant brown robe comes up and puts his arm around her.
That
Maia,
makes
she's
sense.
Sexy Chewbacca. It was they were on their way to or from a Star Wars event. And so you have like gays vulturing this estate sale, children with weird dynamics with their parents, a Star Wars sexy cosplay thing going on, and an estate sale that only took cash. My day was amazing.
That's fair.
I'm
love
also
it.
realizing promise to narrate, and I didn't, but I think you can probably pick it up from the audio.
There was a shrug. There was an eye roll.
A very dramatic point.
Yeah, obviously. What did I do today? I had PT.
So you in a hot room with 7 other people.
Yep.
No one else who was talking.
I actually got my PT all to myself today.
Whoa. Is your practice closing down?
No.
Or has your PT instructor finally started to listen to these episodes and is like, we can't have you near other people for their own privacy? Is it a HIPAA thing? Because we can't keep a secret.
No. It's just the other guy that was scheduled. It's actually a guy I've seen before. I think he's recovering from like a pretty bad ACL injury.
Oh my gosh. Where do you think he's going to go get his physical therapy from?
Well, him, but they were talking about like starting some kind of program. They were like checking him out behind like the curtain, so I know it was like a like serious like let's look at your muscles moment. And then they were like, "Okay, bye. We'll see you on Sunday." And so I think it was just like a short check-in, and that's why I got him to myself. But I was like, you're standing near me far too often. I'm used to you doing other things. I don't need you counting my reps.
I want you to know that that's what dating in your late 20s is like.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm used to being ignored and then intense attention and then alone again, right?
Yeah.
So I'm so sorry you had to weather that for the first time.
Casey and I had to go through that a couple of times.
Oh, what, when you were 20? I just looked at the camera if you're on audio right now.
23. When we first moved in together, because I had lived alone for the first like 8 months,
sure,
maybe something like that. And then he moved in and I was like, you are far too close. I know this is a 1-bedroom apartment and this is what we agreed to, but I need to leave.
I feel that about myself sometimes. I'm like, gross. Why would he leave the kitchen like this?
Have you ever heard of a depression nap? Because that's what I do.
Did you say a depression nap?
Yeah.
I will at times get grumpy in the afternoon and pretty sure nothing good has ever happened, but I'm just almost always a little dehydrated.
I either haven't eaten or I've actually slept too much.
What's that like, Maia? What's it like to sleep too much?
You get really tired from sleep deprivation and then you overdo it on the recompensation part of it.
Because here's where I'm at personally in my personal sleep journey right now. Today, to a group of students, while leading instruction, I said out loud, that's right, I'm not being nice right now. And internally it was like, we really aren't, and we should walk it back a little bit. But you don't know the concepts that I'm instructing. You are going to be assessed on it in a second. My job is not to make sure you had happy, fun time. My job is not Chuck E. Cheese. My job is what I got paid to instruct you to do.
Yeah.
And if you want to be distracted and then give me an attitude when I politely call for your attention, you're right, I'm not being nice. You need to know this.
Yeah.
The state has decided that. And this is the place and time where you're going to learn it.
I'm not being nice.
Right. You'll notice I'm being nice to 29 other children right now. And then afterwards, I was like, I am not proud of that interaction. And I'm going to have to do some
thinking?
No, I've done the thinking. I'm going to need to have some conversations on Monday that essentially go, hey, while I was categorically correct my delivery method
was
not.
A little off.
But here's the thing. The calculation I made was like, I can send you to the hallway and like not call you out in front of everybody. But then like, you're going to get a chance to hang out in the hallway. And I'm still going to have to catch you up on everything. And everyone's still going to know why you were in the hallway. When instead, I could stop the behavior right now and discourage others from doing so. But I think that's the tired talking, because I have never gotten too much sleep.
I always think sleep will fix everything. And to be fair, it does for a while, until you like get depressed that you're not being productive because you're so like, you're just like so lethargic, and then you're not like, I haven't done a workout in 2 weeks, and it's a whole fucking thing. It's fine. I'm fine. My therapist told me that I should stop taking depression naps, but sometimes your girl needs a depression nap. And here's the problem with having the trifecta of mental health disorders, that is ADHD, anxiety, and depression, is that I'm also on ADHD medication, aka amphetamines, and sometimes I want to take a depression nap, but the medications that I need to be on are like, you can't.
What if we just kind of squirreled everything away in our office for the next hour?
Exactly. And then sometimes it doesn't hit like fast enough, and so I drink a cup of coffee, and then my entire body shuts down.
I feel for you. I'm holding space for you. I also know personally, this was before I was going to the doctor.
Yeah.
Jacob went to a doctor, and the doctor was like, stop having snake meal, which is where you eat all of your calories, which is way more calories than you're supposed to eat in a day.
Yeah.
All at once in 22 minutes.
That's
and
what Casey
Jacob
does.
then relayed that information to the rest of the group, and I was like, but he doesn't even know how funny I am. Anyways, one last thing. At the intersection of depression and students was a kid in my first period today who was a senior, who knew it was senior skip day and hadn't decided if he wanted to skip or not.
So he was just there.
So inertia brought him there. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to follow any of the like school rules. He shows up, he has a hood on, headphones on, and he's on his phone, and he announces proudly to all of the other students, because it's a mixed grade class, Mister, I'm just not doing anything today. And I go, first thing you're doing is stepping out into the hallway. I'm a good teacher, I promise. I don't always publicly shame them. Whatever. First thing you're doing is you're going down to the hallway. And so we go to the hallway. He goes, Mister, I don't want to do anything today. I think I should have skipped.
Yeah.
And then I look at him, Maia, and I go, well, technically you still can. If you walk out those doors, no one's going to physically stop you, and you will receive
Legally,
the
we
same
can't.
consequence as all of your peers.
Yeah.
But if you're in that room, you're going to follow the rules.
You can't skip and not skip.
Right, it's not Ferris Bueller's Day Off,
Yeah.
but I'm still at school.
Yeah,
right?
no,
like
no.
If you were
Can you
going to be, yes, I had to
He's
stop
on
it.
a parade in the middle of the school.
He really kind of was. At period 5, he swung back around and he waved at me through my door window, and my only thought was, why are you still here? It's like that scene from The Grinch. Are you two still living? I was like, we're after lunch, babes. What do you came back from lunch?
Yeah, that's
What?
the time to leave.
And you gotta go to half day, and your parents would be
Yeah.
like, no, they just marked all the seniors out. Like, you could lie at that point.
Yeah.
What are we teaching these kids? What are we teaching these kids?
Do you need me to cut any of that?
I don't think so.
Okay, cool.
I'm gonna sleep on the me shaming a student publicly in front of 29 peers things. But the teachers listening know it's May. And the parents who are listening know they deserve it.
Also, it's seniors. It is
Yes.
17 and 18-year-olds.
Yes.
What are you going to do?
If
What are you
you
gonna do?
can drive a car, which most of them can't, but we allow them to do.
Really? What?
What?
They can't, but you allow them to?
As in they are terrible drivers,
Oh.
but they have legally obtained
I was like,
documents to allow
I'm pretty
them
sure
to
they
drive.
can.
Unfortunately. If you can do that, then I can ask you to listen.
Yeah.
And after several times of asking you not to listen, I can be like, it's very strange you have chosen not to listen.
I twitch. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've now said too much. So that's been my life. That's been the update in a nutshell. When was the last time we recorded?
Last Friday.
Was it really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a week.
Well, I'm excited to hear your story about In the Bag, unless you
Yeah.
had stuff you wanted to talk about.
If you're watching on YouTube, we are in fact at Kelsey and Edgar's. Kelsey and Edgar are in fact in fucking France. Those
And because
assholes.
Kelsey and Edgar, you are now probably typing out a message to us. We hope France was wonderful, and we can't wait to hear about it.
Yeah, and you better have brought me back a souvenir, I swear to God.
I saw this TikTok, and it was like from an influencer, and she was like, here's why you need to work to make sure you can ship back some butter from your trip to France. And I'm like, ma'am, I've been to France. The most unrelatable video you could ever put in front of me. Yeah, she's like, you'll really notice the difference. If you, it almost felt like it was supposed to be parody, but it wasn't willing to invest more time to find out if it was parody or not. Mm-hmm.
Usually a quick scroll through the comments. If there's anyone in the top 10 that's like, guys, this is satire, then I'm like, okay.
So yes, but what if it's not satire and then I suddenly develop the ability to ship myself butter from France? What if this is my in for the giant baby bell?
Oh.
More to come.
More to come. Grant was very kind and bought me one of the bears from the estate sale today. He brought in a little bag and he was like, I brought you a gift. And I was like, if you somehow manage to fit a giant baby bell into this bag, I'm going to lose my mind.
You also said, what? Like, what did I do to deserve a gift?
It's not an event.
And I was like, I mean, you've done like all of the editing for an entire year. So here's a little bear.
Casey's editing this episode, which is really just kismet.
Maia has a bear. You should go look at it. It's an original Lawrence Argent.
It's very cute.
Yes. And so between the huskies in this room and the just perma dust in the air at the Denver Rock Drill, it's a pretty sneezy evening. So sorry.
It's a good night for you not to tell a story.
I'm ready.
Do you have any idea what story I'm going to tell?
No, I saw that the podcast purchased a subscription to the Washington Post.
I was sick of the paywalls.
I don't blame you.
We have enough money to afford like a couple dollars a month.
We can afford news. We're a research organization.
Yeah.
No, I'm not mad about it. I just I saw the email come in for the receipt, and I was like, I don't know if the link's going to be in there or not, but I don't want to investigate.
Yeah.
Because I want to be safe. So no, truly have no idea.
Excellent.
I did art crimes, which was in the bag.
Yeah.
So I really am curious if it's a story about cats. Like in the bag, cats out of the bag kind of situation, and in and out, overcook, undercook kind of situation.
That would have been really funny. Now that I think about
Hindsight. There's a whole episode on orange cats.
This was definitely another one where I knew the story. I've heard it a couple times. I've definitely mentioned that I want to do it on the podcast, so you're gonna know it at some point. And then I was like, it's going to be a pretty easy story. Like, the facts are pretty easily laid out. All the articles I've found have been pretty short. And then I got into it, I think, last night. No, I got really into it a few days ago. And then I saw, I found a couple really long articles. And I was like, oh, man. And then today I found another really long article. And I was like, oh, man. One of those articles did not get fully read.
Okay, so if there's a plot twist at the end, we don't know.
No, all the information's here. There's just a lot of details that at one point I was reading through that really long article and I kept typing things and I was like, this is not crucial information. I need to stop writing this down.
But those side tangents are always fun. What do you mean John Kerry defended one of the people that then robbed the Gardner Museum years later? That's fascinating.
It is. Unfortunately, you'll see once we get into it that some of the details are just not important.
I did a top 6 weirdest things about Victor Hugo at the very top of that episode. I'm here for weird knowledge.
That's fair.
If it starts off with a conception story, it better be about that goddamn stingray.
No. Stingray's out of the bag.
All right. I am going to shut up now. Go ahead.
Okay, here we go. We are going to start I'm going to leave out some details pretty intentionally at the beginning, but you're welcome to ask whatever you want. So we're going to start in the 1950s with the Olofsson family. The Olofsson family is a family of 4. It's a single mother and 3 children. The oldest is a boy, and then the two younger siblings are girls.
Maia.
What?
Maia.
What?
A single mom who works 2 jobs.
Well, maybe.
More than 2 or no jobs or not a single mom? Or is this the coming of age story of Reba McEntire? I will lose my mind.
How is that in the bag?
I don't know. Because she got hers. She got her bag.
Also, okay, sorry. I do have a couple announcements. One, the next theme that we're covering is The Hills We Die On. I'm pretty sure this will, knowing our recording schedule, this will probably release before we record the listener episode. So if you have stories for the hills we die on, let me know or send it to our email. And then also, in the listener episode, we read an email from a Chrissy or a Chris. And I think we made a mistake thinking that I made a mistake thinking it was the person that had made the art. The person who made the art messaged us and was like, wasn't me.
Thanks for the shout out, but not my shout out.
And I was like, I'm so sorry. So for the person that actually did write that email, we know that you didn't make art for us now. And for the person that made the art for us, we now know you didn't have a bunch of weird dreams.
Oh, right, because we just laid it all at somebody's feet.
Yeah.
Fun.
So anyway.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Also, final announcement, if we're in announcements.
Sure.
Next episode is our 1 year anniversary.
Is that real?
Yeah. I've been writing all the episode descriptions.
Maybe I should change my story.
The one happening right now or the one happening next week?
The one happening next week. It's fine. I'm already on it.
If it's a Where Are They Now Unabomber episode, everyone's going to flip.
No. I mean, the hills we die on, I could very easily morph into really anything. This one is just like so unserious that it feels weird to make this our 1 year anniversary episode.
I managed to get my first 2-part episode in before a 1 year anniversary.
Yeah, I'm proud
Sorry,
of you.
there was a single mother of 4 that we were talking about
single
about
mother
4 minutes ago.
There's a single mom who works too hard. Anyway, the father was an alcoholic who abandoned the family, so he's no longer in the picture when the children are young. When the children are all still very young, at this point the boy is about 8 and then the 2 girls are younger than him. The mother falls ill, which results in the children being taken into the foster care system, which, as you know, foster care system, TB,
mixed bag.
Yeah, mixed bag on like how you end up or what families you end up with, what situations you live through. So eventually the mother recovers well enough. She gets a job as an assistant and reclaims custody of the children and then moves the family into an apartment. Unfortunately, given that she was a single mom that works too hard,
right?
Not 2 jobs, too hard. The apartment she could afford was not in a great part of town. In fact, some newspapers called this neighborhood, quote, ruled by gangs and thugs. So it's like there's a lot of crime happening in this neighborhood. So this next story is rumored. It may or may not be true, but it is rumored that around the age of 15, the boy went abroad on cargo ships, the oldest boy, and returned home with like a lot of souvenirs, right, from his journeys. Okay. And one of which was a battery-operated record player that he was very proud of. It's the 1950s.
Okay.
And it's like the best in the neighborhood. It's not a great neighborhood. And so it continues that there's a gang-related break-in at the family home, and they smash this record player.
They don't even steal it?
No, they smash it. They destroy it because, yeah. The boy, whose name is Clark, is rumored to have been distraught, and he then vowed to become the toughest gang member around.
Oh, shit. Okay.
And so began his life of crime. That may or may not be true. His
name was Clark?
Clark Olsson. So you might be wondering why there is a rumored story about how Clark Olsson got into crime. It's because Clark Olsson, dear Grant, is the Miles Connor of this story.
Wait, what?
He is our hero that's also a criminal.
This is also, what was the name of the person that they based Texas Chainsaw Massacre off of?
I have no idea.
I think his name was like Ed Clark. Don't quote me on that. That's just what like the word recognition was. And since it was in the bag, I was like, I swear to God, if this story is about human skin bags, I'm walking out and you'll do your first solo episode.
I wouldn't be able to do that.
I'm going to like, go get some desserts because we're at Kelsey and Edgar's. But then I'm going to leave.
There's some really delicious chia flaxseed muffins over there. They're so good. Okay. Or at least one of our Miles Connors in today's episode. Do you have any thoughts?
No, I mean, I know he's a thief.
Yeah.
Is he a famous art thief?
No.
Okay, so when you say Miles Connor, you mean like maybe involved but has an airtight alibi?
No, Miles Connor is in like everyone kind of loves him even though they know he's a criminal.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Clark would later recount his reaction to the first time he was locked up in 1964 at the age of like 16, 17. by saying, quote, "The void that arose when I came to the detention center was filled with the standard system of the children's prison." Sorry, this is translated. I'm not going to say what from, but so some of the words might not totally make sense.
I am totally puzzled right now.
"Finally, I had something I could see and understand and analyze. Suddenly, I had been given, in the absence of something positive to fight for, a clearly defined negative goal to fight against. Something to be cunning, clever, and resourceful against. My enemies were everyone who locked me up. Police, child welfare board, guards, people, society, everyone."
I don't know why, after all that you've already told us, I was like, wow, so prison really worked. He was like, I will never be back here.
No.
And instead he was like, I want to get every single person that put me here.
Yeah.
There's a song about it. I sang in it 2 episodes ago.
You did. You really did. So then a year later, after his first lockup in August of 1965, Clark was 18 and on the run from the youth welfare system. And he's about to make some choices. Him and 2 of his friends sneak onto the prime minister's property and his greenhouse, and they steal his grapes, cucumbers, and tomatoes.
They steal his grapes, incur his wrath.
Shut the fuck up.
You know you love a literary reference.
I do.
I'm also just kind of shooting for the low-hanging fruit here, because I'm actually legitimately concerned I'm not going to have any idea who it is.
Oh, I'm very excited.
You're going to be like, and the crime was blank. And
Listen,
I'd be like, holiday hoobie, what
half
do you
of
like?
the story was, after I got all the notes, half of the work was spent organizing the notes. I buried some leads, babes.
Okay, yeah, because I'm sat and I'm lost.
Cool.
I have no idea what's going on.
Unfortunately, in this event, one of the teens, aside from the fact that it's like petty theft, they're stealing
right against
fruits
the prime
and vegetables
minister.
Against the prime minister.
Must be a Scandinavian country. That can't be airtight security.
One of the teens throws a tomato so hard against the glass wall of the greenhouse that the glass shatters.
Yeah, all right.
Tomatoes are pretty soft. How
much
do
gardening have
to
you done? Green tomatoes are not
Oh,
soft.
green tomatoes are not soft. That's fair.
Yeah.
You're
And
right,
also,
you're
you have
right.
no idea what youth rage can accomplish.
Also a good point. 3 months after this, Clark assaults a police officer, and on February 4th of 1966, he is sentenced to 3 years in prison. This would be his 3rd sentence overall, but his first real prison sentence, because he's actually like an adult.
But this prison that's the one that's going to reform him. That's the one that's going to do it.
Sure. Anyway.
He assaults a police officer?
Yeah.
Am I supposed to have figured it out by now? Am I behind the curve?
Okay. I would be shocked if you had. In the spring of 1966, Clark escapes from prison for the first time and begins a life on the run. On July 29th, 1966, 2 police officers respond to a report of a burglary at a bicycle shop. Suddenly, 2 men emerge from the shop running. And you guessed it, the 2 men are first Gunnar Norgren and Clark Olsson, and the pursuit begins. Olofsson and Norgren both shoot at the police, but Norgren's bullet ends up hitting an officer. They're able to trace the bullet back to which gun it was.
Okay.
And the officer succumbs to the wound in the hospital around 2 weeks later. Olofsson and Norgren do manage to escape the scene, which led to, I think, one of the largest manhunts this country had seen in I think ever or whatever. And then in August of 1966, the men are caught. Olofsson is sentenced to 8 years for attempted murder, and Norgren is sentenced to 12 years for actual murder.
Wait, there's a 4-year difference between those two?
Yeah.
Okay, this is definitely a Scandinavian country.
This is Clark Olsson.
I mean, he's...
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he's pretty
right.
cute.
I think I saw him at the art sale today, you know what I mean?
And he, in this picture, I think this is one of his mugshots,
Wait.
he's wearing a suit and he has like a black eye or something. He's just like, he's smoldering at the camera.
And just so you know, all fashion is cyclical. He has, and it's so in right now, one of those dirty little mustaches. Mm-hmm. Is this why you were talking about it before the
you
episode
talked
today?
about it.
Oh, was I?
Yeah.
Well, whoever brought it up first, huge right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
And then this is not the only thing. He has reached public notoriety at this point.
I've never seen that face before.
Yeah, he's reached quite a bit of fame at this
and we've
point.
already covered who wrote James Bond.
Yeah. This could
Part
be
of me's
James
like,
Bond.
we've like over the last year, like kind of eliminated some leads. It's not Bonnie and Clyde. It's not Maria Martin.
No.
Um,
As if you would have known
it's
that
not
name.
Mary Shelley.
No, it's certainly not Mary Shelley.
I have no idea.
Okay. Well, I would still be shocked if you knew. I think you'll start to figure it out pretty soon. But at this point, he's reached a lot of public notoriety. A lot of times it's because the police bungle, like, finding him or catching him, and he is not afraid to talk to the media, and he has really great one-liners, and so people are like...
So he's
He
hot,
has a
he's
fan
charming,
base.
He's funny.
I think at some point...
he's like a bad boy.
I didn't verify this. I did hear this in one of my sources that Clark is listed as one of this country's 100 most influential people.
I love that. Small country though, then, huh?
Yeah, but he never actually, like, aside from assaulting a police officer, which can be considered a lot of things,
Sure.
he never hurt any, like, civilians.
Kind of out of luck though. I mean, he fired guns down a street and just
At
happened
a
to not hit
civilian,
anybody.
yeah, it's fine, whatever. Anyway, we're gonna forget about Clark for a second. We're gonna.
I mean, I don't know how I've seen his photo now. And if you're on YouTube, so have you.
Yeah. We're gonna flash forward. We're going to August 23rd of 1973. Specifically, we're going to a rather new bank. I think it's like an established bank, but this is like a new branch, maybe, or new-ish. And it's in the middle of the city center. A man enters the bank carrying a jacket over one arm and a large canvas suitcase in the other. He's also wearing gloves and, quote, a pair of toy store spectacles and a thick brown wig. Upon closer inspection, it's clear that he's wearing rouge on his cheeks and his naturally reddish-brown mustache and eyebrows are dyed jet black. The man pulls a submachine gun from inside of his jacket, points it at the ceiling, fires around, and yells in English, in a distinctly American accent, "The party has just begun."
I mean, if it's Clark, then yeah, like let's take
Clark
our
is in
shirts
jail
off
right
and see
now.
what's going on. Oh, shucks. Okay.
I mean, like, theoretically, who knows? He's in jail right now.
So he really is our Miles Connor of the situation. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that Hot Clark is like not allowed to be officially affiliated. with
Officially
this.
affiliated.
I'm just gonna call him Hot Clark now.
That's fair.
Is that inappropriate? Does he?
There's
end up-
no second Clark, but
Okay.
you can call him Hot Clark.
Does he commit some heinous crimes that I'm later going to be embarrassed about calling him Hot Clark for?
No, I don't
Amazing
think
and
so.
sticking. Amazing.
I did write a long paragraph about what Clark does later on in life, and I'm trying to remember. I don't think there's anything heinous.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's still alive today. So in the canvas suitcase, the gunman, has a second pair of gloves, ammunition, plastic explosives, blasting caps, safety fuses, lengths of rope, a knife, wool socks, sunglasses, 2 walkie-talkies, and a transistor radio. One of the bank clerks, Kristen Enmark, would later tell The New Yorker, "I believed I was seeing something that could only happen in America." The gunman at the time was believed to be 21-year-old Kaj Hansson, an escaped prisoner who specialized in bank robberies. But this is not confirmed. This is just what the police officers think, who they think the gunman is. Instinctively, most of the people in the bank drop to the floor or like seclude themselves in like corners or alcoves or like security areas. A few run for the exits and into the city square, but most kind of like duck. The gunman places his radio on the counter and turns it on full blast. At this point, it's rock music. At later points, it will be like police scanners, kind of, to like or like the actual radio.
I'm gripped. Hold on. Did they make a movie out of this?
There is a movie. There's a couple TV shows. There's a lot of docuseries.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've watched none of them, so don't come at me. At this point, he makes eye contact with the stenographer who's on the ground near him. Someone, if you don't know what a stenographer is, it's someone that's trained to like type in shorthand. You'll see them in courtrooms, most notably now. And this person was delivering a typed letter to the loan department. This was Kristen Enmark, so maybe Kristen Enmark wasn't a bank teller. Whatever, it's fine. Kristen Enmark worked at the bank. There was also like several different spellings for Kristen Enmark.
That's
like
frustrating.
Enmark or Ehnmark. And I was like, pick one. Anyway, it's fine. So she could not understand what he was doing or why. Like, mind you, he just put a radio on the counter and started blasting rock music.
Right.
And she's like, what the fuck is this goddamn American doing here?
Robbing our bank.
Yeah. And so she couldn't understand what he was doing or why. She was later quoted saying, I believed a maniac had come into my life. The gunman then hands some of the rope in his bag to a male bookkeeper, who he charged with tying up Kristen's hands and ankles. The male bookkeeper, I didn't write it down, but I'm pretty sure his name was Bo Nielsen.
Okay.
And I'm going to say a little bit more about him later that I also didn't write down, but I did write in my phone as I was listening to a podcast about this. Okay. At this point, Kristen is a 23-year-old woman who had recently moved to the city with her fiance, and she had only been there for a few years. She had taken the first job she could get. Basically, her fiance had been offered a job in this city, so she had moved with him, and then that love affair had kind of died out.
Can I pause you for a second? Did you ever work retail?
Yeah.
Did you ever get the speech of like what to do if we were to get robbed?
I probably did. I don't remember it.
I worked at a discount grocer, and they gave us that speech. And they were like, don't try to be a hero. Money's replaceable. You're not. And part of me wanted to be like, I wouldn't risk my life for a discount grocery store. Like, I know how much cash we keep in this register because I have to count it twice a shift. I'm not dying over $250, you know? Like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
But two... you just don't want to have to pay out the insurance money. Like, it's going to be, like, sure, I'm sure.
That's a lot of workers' comp.
Well, exactly. If the money's replaceable, your death, way more money. And that money's not replaceable.
For us, I think it was more like, they were like, legally, you're not allowed to do anything, even if you see someone stealing from the store.
What did you work at?
Gap.
Ah.
Yeah.
I feel like if you are stealing from Gap, you're down bad in a certain kind of way.
Yeah, also it was at a mall, and there's a Target, like, right across the way.
So no one stole from the Gap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although, don't steal from Target now. They have, like, cameras in the shelves now. They'll get you. I had a friend one time, they pulled him back into, like, the security room and showed him footage of someone else stealing gum, and they thought it was him. And he was like, I don't know how to tell you that's not me.
No, you don't even understand. Today, a kid was like, Mister, I saw you at Walmart last night. And I was like, this has happened now repeatedly, where I had to go like, that wasn't me. I don't shop at Walmart. And that's not like an elitist thing.
Yeah.
There's a Kroger's that's closer to me.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I don't shop at Walmart. And they go, I swear it was you. And I have to say over and over again, not all bald white guys are the same.
Or are me.
Right. And someone was like, well, maybe they cloned you. And I was like, no one's this insufferable and then duplicated.
Yeah. No one's looking at me and like, we need more.
You know what? I think the world's too quiet. I think we need more Grants in the world.
Please don't.
Like, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't love me if I met myself at a party.
Oh, I know I wouldn't love me. Because
Right.
I've met someone that people are like, you and her are a lot of like, and I'm like, that's funny because I fucking hate her.
I think that's actually that's so good. That's a universal experience. I've also had like, oh, you know what's so funny? Like his style of humor reminds me of you, and I'm like, that's so fucked up. That's the worst person I have ever met.
Actually, really rude.
I know I've said it on the podcast already, but Griffin still thinks my humor is like that from HBO's Girls, and it's like that ha ha ha, you know, like it ran for like 5-6 seasons and was like super successful, but also tough to hear. Tough feedback to get.
If it makes you feel better, he's straight, so.
That actually does make me feel a lot better. He doesn't know. And also, he's just now rewatching Girls. Way after that entire era's done.
Yeah, that's
Brooklyn's over at this point.
Yeah.
Right? Right in.
Sure, I don't know.
Oh, we were robbing a bank.
Yeah, we're robbing a bank. Kristen Enmark is getting tied up by one of her coworkers.
Hot again.
Except not.
Right, but it's like the danger is part of it, you know?
Yeah, it's fine. So
also, he was kind enough to put on some mood music.
Yeah. Dun-dun-dun-dun.
That's the music that was playing when we turned on the car at my grandma's funeral. I do not know why that would be any different.
Come on, Eileen.
And that was a huge mistake. Used in both instances.
Okay, so
just go.
She had moved to the city for her fiance, right? She takes a job. The fiance and her end up not working out, and so she's stuck in this job that she realizes after the relationship ends isn't for her. And then she decides to enroll in classes for social work. But the classes won't start until next month, September. So she's still working at this bank.
Okay.
It's August. And at this point, she recalls that as she's getting tied up, she recalls being deeply regretting lingering in the world for banking for too long and also leaving her hometown.
It reminds me a little bit of that bar we went to in Prague when we were like, do you like living in Prague? And our waitress was like, I don't know. I just moved here like a month ago. And we were like, well, what's it been like? She goes, oh, I've been working. We're like, right. But like in your free time, she goes, I have been working.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, we're so sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. Like, not a
and
weekend?
You're at work right now.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
She did have some incredible gay bar recommendations,
She
though.
did.
She was a homie.
I loved her.
And I hope she got a day off at some point.
And I hope she's living her best life
What's so
right
funny
now.
is out of all the people I've met in Europe on that trip, including...
Yeah.
She's the one I think about still.
That's true. I haven't.
I'm just rooting for her.
I am rooting for her too.
Yeah.
From
I mean, not
afar.
as hard as I am, apparently.
Apparently
but...
not. Yeah. I also just out of sight, out of mind.
Okay, I'm sorry. This woman who meant to leave the world of finance is instead tied up in a bank.
Yeah, tied up in a bank
I'm
and
feeling
thinking
chatty
like,
tonight, I think is what I'm noticing.
yeah, you better stop because we
Okay.
have a lot of notes.
Oh, okay.
I mean, don't stop, but like,
Thank you for that mixed message. Don't stop, but also if you don't stop, there are consequences.
I'm just saying, if you don't stop, that's fine. We're just gonna be
Right,
here for like
did that
4
feel clear
hours.
to you?
It didn't feel clear to me, and I said it.
Leave
so
me alone,
it's-
but like text me, okay?
That is my whole vibe. It's like, if you call me, I will not pick up. If you leave a voicemail, maybe I'll respond.
Ask me to hang out, but in a way that makes it clear I am not at all obligated to, but invite me to everything, and if I'm not, I'll be hurt.
That's
Yeah,
true, and
under-
I'm gonna come to 40% of it.
crystal clear. 40. Actually, no, I would actually say maybe over 50%.
I do come to quite a few things. Yeah,
I
I
think
do.
it's because she trusts us.
I do, and
You
they're
like
also
us.
fun. Yeah, that's stupid.
Let's go back to that robbery.
Yeah, so Kristen, tied up, regretting her life choices, looks to her side, and
again.
there is Brigitta, who's also tied up. Brigitta is 31, and she has been working at this bank for 10 years. She's commuting from a nearby suburb where she lives with her husband, who's a civil engineer, and her 2 young daughters, who are 3 and 1.5. She's known as a diligent worker and with an almost perfect attendance record, and she has said that she likes the rhythm of her job and the responsibility she gets, and she's even quoted like a year after this whole incident saying like, when I pictured my future, the bank was always a part of it. Like, she loved her job.
I love that she loves responsibility because she's also married and has 2 kids and she's 31. Like,
Yeah.
That just feels like all responsibility.
It does. It feels like a lot of responsibility. Next to Brigitta, the male bookkeeper is now tying up a 3rd woman on the orders of the
Oh,
government.
he really does do a lot of the dirty work here, huh? This
Yeah.
bookkeeper.
Yeah, it's the 3rd woman is Elisabeth Oldgren. She's a 21-year-old cashier in the foreign exchange department who had only been at the bank for 14 months. Kristen and Elisabeth, despite having never really known each other prior to this, would soon find out that they had much in common. They both wanted to leave the bank and were awaiting the start of school in the fall. For Elisabeth, it was nursing school.
Oh.
So here's the next part that I didn't write in my notes, but I did like listen to on a podcast. Bo Nielsen, the bookkeeper that was asked to tie up the
Right.
females, was then sent out by the gunman to like find the police, right? Like, luckily there was silent alarms triggered, so the police were already kind of on their way. So
Right.
it seems like he just kind of like,
He has time to tie up 3 women before the police get there?
yeah.
Okay. That feels like too long of a gap.
Yeah.
He comes in, sprays bullets, yells, the party's about to start.
Theoretically, this is where the silent alarm gets hit,
Right.
probably a couple times.
Listen, I think I'm
And then
actually
he
hitting
ties
it
up 3
before
women.
he's even through the door.
Yeah.
If I see a duffel bag, I think, Charlie, I'm going to take my 5, and then I'm like sprinting
I'm
out.
pretty sure that's what happened.
Okay.
What I read is that he walked in and then everyone was like,
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. Saying this from the comfort of our living room.
Yes.
And I know you told me to shut up, and you know that's a hard note for me to hear. Knowing all you know, would you stay in the bank?
I'm not going to answer that.
Okay. Because I don't know anything that you know. Because, like, part of me, and I always end up saying no eventually, but part of me is like, hey, do you want to ride on the Titanic? We promise you you're going to live through the experience. Part of me is like, yes. But then
no one dies in this experience.
Oh, good. Okay,
Yeah.
sweet. Because a lot of people die in the Titanic. And so
Yeah.
that's why I ultimately say no. Like,
No.
I think that would traumatize me. But, like, part of me is like, yeah, I like to be there and like to be like an eyewitness to some of these, like, historical events.
Yeah, everyone lives. I don't know if I would just for like, I don't know.
The terrifying nature
the
of it
trauma,
all.
yeah.
I just think the curse of my history education degree leads me to be like, how cool would it be to be an eyewitness to history? But then I saw 9/11 happen as a third grader, and then that completely changed everything. So who knows?
That's true. I was alive when it happened. I don't remember it. Okay. Bo Nielsen gets sent out to go find the police because now that he's holding a bank hostage, the gunman wants to start negotiations. And so he's like, bring the cops. And Bo's like...
He's a pro. Nice.
And Bo's like, okay. And so he walks out and the police were like, yeah, that's great. Go back in and tell him, or like try and convince him to surrender and give up the hostages.
I'm not your owl.
And Bo kind of like goes, what?
And do you want anything else? Still or sparkling?
Yeah,
what do you mean? Go back inside.
You now have one less hostage to deal with. I'm not going back in.
Are you telling me no one has that branch's phone number? You can't ring a ding
Call
ding?
it up? Yes.
Does Bo go back inside?
No, he retreats.
Good.
I know.
Good.
Fucking iconic.
I also kind of love the cop mentality in that situation of the worst he could say is no.
Also, what the fuck is the cop doing? He's like, yeah, excellent. You're a negotiator now. Like, what? So
Also, if you just, I feel like when you watch the crime shows, you're like, well, let's just make sure he stays in custody. Let's not go let him have a weird little time in the city in case he's in on it.
yeah, you never know.
He's the last person to walk out of that bank. Maybe we should just keep an eye on him.
Maybe. Exactly. Okay, so lucky for the gunman, someone had triggered the silent alarm, so the police were essentially already there working to secure the city square because this is a busy area.
Sure.
It's commuting time, and so there's a ton of people. They're working to get sharpshooters on the roofs of nearby buildings. If you've ever seen a movie depicting a bank heist, that's what they're trying to set up with varying amounts of success. The first person the gunman interacts with is Morgan Rylander, an undercover officer who had been patrolling the area, and since he was the closest, he was the first on the scene. So seeing what he assumed to be an American, he began speaking English. And so the gunman says, "Are you a police officer?" Ryland says, "No, but I can bring you one." I mean, he is a police officer, but not. And so the gunman says, "Okay, do so." What the fuck? So
it makes me think he's not an American because we are gabbers.
yeah. So you might be wondering why I haven't mentioned the location yet.
Right.
And why I keep mentioning the gunman
Wait, hold
appears American.
Can I guess?
Yeah, sure.
Are you about to tell us where we get the phrase Stockholm Syndrome from?
Yeah, I am.
Fuck yes! Oh, God. Listen, I know it took me 30 to 50 minutes, maybe 8. I don't know. I don't have any kind of time tracker right now. The fact that I was able to get it, though, before you announced it.
Also, the fact that I did basically almost say Sweden and then stop myself.
I mean, you did, but I couldn't hint at it, and so it was hard for me to connect all the dots together.
Oh, my God, it's fine. I cut it. Don't go back and try and find it. It's gone.
We can both have credit. That's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Okay, so...
I also love that Americans were like, let's take this American ingenuity overseas and create a whole new type of psychological disorder.
Hell yeah, brother!
Wait, so when they were tying up all the women and I was saying hot as a joke, that was actually also kind of for reals. Prophetic.
I'm going to let Grant run with that one.
Prophetic.
Okay. The American identity is important for a lot of reasons here. The main one being that we're not in America, obviously, now that Grant has spoiled it. Just kidding. It's 5 bullet points ahead of where I was going to reveal it. So the gunman, supposedly Kaj Hansson, obviously it's not, that's who they think it is portraying a unique propensity for violence not common in Sweden or in any Nordic country. America, around the time, was moving from being seen as a place of the American dream, gold in the streets, and unlimited freedom, as a Northwestern professor referred to it, to American delusion with the arrival of the Vietnam War, political assassinations in the 60s, and general counterculture against the establishment. The violence of American culture was becoming more prominent, cowboys versus Indians was becoming a cultural phenomenon.
Sure.
Gunmen in the West, gangsters in the cities, Jesse James of the Pinkerton brothers, James situation of the James brothers, Billy the Kid, Sam Bass, Bonnie and Clyde, etc., showing the romanticism of an outlaw, which is a uniquely American archetype softened into a Robin Hood figure.
I think you're forgetting one crucial figure in that cast of characters. Patty Hearst. Because this is happening at the same time.
A year later, Patty Hearst gets...
Do you mention Patty Hearst in your story?
Obviously.
Oh, okay.
Not like
Sorry, I was just
very
excited
rarely.
to be like, as a person who listens.
She gets kidnapped a year after this happens,
you
and
know-
then her trial will happen much later.
Do you know what I love? Speaking over you to say the phrase, as a person who listens, that brings me joy.
I know. I've noticed. I also have a lot to say.
I know you do. You're doing a great job, too. You're doing a really good job saying it.
Okay, so if you want to look more into that, there is a whole article that I like read through and then didn't quite have like, I don't think the space in the story to talk about it. There is a lot of analysis about how the American culture plays into why the gunman portrayed this American, like this English accent, the American accent. And it's an article on JSTOR called Stockholm Syndrome. But yeah, so we have a lot more to cover tonight. Everything from the initial misidentification of the perpetrator to the addition of a fourth hostage and another gunman. The police and public response to the bank robbery of Sverige. Fuck, I wrote down a pronunciation and I don't even know how to pronounce it. Sverige, Kreditbanken in Norrmalmstorg Square in the capital of Sweden, Stockholm. So, dear listener, as Grant already mentioned, we are covering the bank robbery that sparked what would be initially called Norrmalmstorg syndrome, which is now referred to as Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, that one just a bit more alliteration, a bit more rhyming there.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the bank that we're in is the Sverige Kreditbanken, which is in Stockholm, and I'm not going to say those words again because I can't. So
Banken is how I would say bank if I was trying to speak Swedish, but had no idea how to speak it.
Do you remember that day that we
Don't
were...
Banken.
Do you remember that day that we were buying secondhand Trachten for Oktoberfest?
Oh, yeah.
And we had to go
And
find a
vegetables.
bank.
Yes.
That's how I found it, is that they were all called Banken. Turns
To our
out,
credit, we weren't like, money! Where money?
I was on Google Maps. It was fine.
Actually, a really beautiful little town.
That town was very cute. Okay, so Rylander, that undercover police officer, goes upstairs to use a phone. The second story of this building is where all the like execs' offices are, and then the first story is where like the actual bank is.
Set the second story on fire, just for good measure, and then get back down to the people's work
Exactly.
of robbing the bank.
Exactly. So Rylander goes upstairs to use a phone, and police also begin to install themselves throughout the bank, entering via the back entrance to the upper floors of the bank.
Oh.
Detective Inspector Ingemar Warpfelt appears at the foot of the staircase with a revolver. The gunman does not see him, but Brigitta does, and she screams, "Don't shoot." And so the gunman kind of like whirls around, and he's like, "Who are you?" And the guy goes, "I'm a police officer. Drop your gun." Why would you say that to a man with a submachine gun and you have a revolver?
And 3 hostages.
Yeah, and so the gunman shoots.
Right.
And hits the guy in the right hand. Obviously, it's not fatal, but it is permanently damaged. We would later find out. At this point, Rylander returns with news that a higher-ranking police officer is on his way, and so they're just waiting for this guy to show up.
Well, our like boulder dashed assassination plot didn't work.
So
Better retreat fully and wait for the chief to show up.
And so they're all just sitting there. Mind you, the hostages are tied up. Everyone is still in the bank. Like, all of the other customers that have not been picked as hostages are still, like, on the ground. And Rylander sits in a leather chair, and just, like, I think he's trying to de-escalate the situation by acting super chill, is what I'm interpreting his actions as. But the gunman hazes him a bit, saying, like, "Do you think I could miss you from here?" And he has a submachine gun pointed at him from, like, 3 yards away. Rylander doesn't respond, and so the gunman just keeps on, like, trying to egg him on. And
Rylander's one of the cops.
Rylander's the undercover one, the first one to show up.
Okay.
The gunman tells him to sing a song as another, like, hazing thing. And hoping to appeal to the American in front of him, Rylander begins to sing Lonesome Cowboy by Elvis. Yeah, weird.
Okay.
Here are some of the lyrics. "I'm just a lonesome cowboy, and I'm traveling all alone. I ain't even got a nickel to call my baby on the phone. I'm just a lonesome cowboy, and I'm traveling all alone. If you don't call me baby, then I'm never coming home." Dark.
Yeah, I'm gonna die here because I love you.
Because I love you, baby.
When I was doing research on the Gardner heist, day guard who was there, like the morning of, and like watched
Yeah.
everything happen. Who, she was like, I swear, the morning of the Gardner investigation, when the Boston PD shows up, and I know it sounds like I'm like making this up, but like first thing that happened was box of donuts down on the counter, and I was like, I should be a cop. No.
The stereotype is unfortunately based in
And
truth.
there's also actually a lot of donuts at school right now. It's May. Anyways, so Rylander is like,
Yes.
hey, I'm Elvis. I bet this appeals to you.
Yeah, because you're American and I speak English.
Does he want the American bank robber to love him, and that's why? Was he singing it to him, or was it singing it to him?
He was not singing it like to him, wink, wink. You know, he was just singing to like.
Well, I don't know.
take
I wasn't in
time.
the room. What was the tension like?
A lot, I assume.
Oh, right, because he has like a machine gun.
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
right.
Eventually, the gunman is like, "That's enough of that. Do some work." And so he puts Rylander to work, telling him to clear the bank of everyone except for the hostages. So anyone that hasn't been tied up is now being cleared out, including 2 officers that had wandered down to the ground floor, because he was like, this ground floor is mine. Like, you guys can do whatever the fuck you want. And I think there's 4 other stories to this building. And he's just like, leave this main floor alone. And so he asks Rylander to kick out the other 2 officers. Rylander escorts all of them out of the bank in groups of 2 and 3 under the sharp supervision of the gunman. And then the high-ranking officer shows up, Police Superintendent Sven Thorender, chief of the Stockholm Police District's Homicide and Violence Squad. And after ensuring the officer, the chief, was not hiding any weapons on him, negotiations begin.
Like he just walks in?
He just walks in.
Wild.
I know, absolutely. I'm assuming Rylander was like, this is my boss. I'm going to go back to doing my normal day job.
I hope it's Bo with a mustache. I am here to negotiate my name.
I am businessman.
Sven. Sven is the made-up name I would give myself if I was trying to pretend to be Swedish.
Yeah, that's fair.
Sven.
There's another Sven in the story, so you're not that far off.
Oh, is it there Thomas or Anne?
Yeah, I think so. List of demands. Just as a fun little game, Grant. What would your demands be if you'd just taken a bank
robbed
hostage?
a bank,
Yeah.
rule number 1, everyone gets real cool with this real quick. And not permanently mad about all of it. Probably like flight to a country that won't extradite me back to the U.S. Money.
Yes, obviously. How much money, though?
Enough that I could stop worrying about how much a McChicken costs now. It's
Yeah.
like $3.
It is a lot. But, like, how much money do you think reasonably they have on hand? That's another question.
Because we're talking about like Swedish proportions, not
Yeah.
American. Because I'm like, I mean, we're not talking to anybody about anything
Yeah.
until we're at least at 30 million.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
I'm never coming back to America.
No, yeah, you gotta.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, correct.
30 million, yeah,
Yeah,
I think.
okay.
I mean, enough to set up a couple shell companies.
You gotta.
Yeah, you gotta.
So he has a list of demands before he would release the
Wait, what's
hostages.
on your list?
Honestly, just a lot of fucking money. I don't want them knowing what country I go to. There's a point in here that'll come up in a second about like the money that is really important that I think I would stipulate. I think it would just be a lot of money and then somehow a free escape. Some way to assure that they're not going to follow me
Only
or track me.
robbers ever got either one of those
They
in
never
any
do.
of the
They
stories.
never do. Don't rob a bank, kids. That's not the way to make money.
Rob an art museum.
Yeah, that's a way to get out of jail free card. Here's the thing: you rob an art museum, get out of jail free card,
Right.
aka I don't know, a Monet or whatever, and then
Another
you
right.
rob a bank.
And then you rob a bank. You can go to jail for that.
Yeah,
Overcook, undercook.
there it is. There it is. So he makes these demands, still communicating in his American accent. 3 million
What?
kroner, which is about $710,000.
I'm sorry, what?
Which translates to about $5 million today.
Okay.
$5 million today, American dollars. He also asks for 2 pistols, because they're easier to travel with than his submachine gun.
Right.
A fast getaway car. He stipulated that his hostages would need to come with him for his initial escape to
Right.
ensure the police would not harm him. Bulletproof vests and helmets provided by the police for everyone he would be leaving the bank with. For emphasis, when he asks for this, he points the submachine gun at the 3 hostages and says, if anything happens to them, the police will be to blame. Finally, and maybe most notably, he demands the police release Clark Olsson, who is currently serving a 6-year sentence at a penitentiary
Clark.
90 miles south of Stockholm.
Okay.
Later, the gunman, yet to be correctly identified, would recount that he was sure his demands would be met quickly. Due to...
They're always so confident about that portion of the plan.
Due to a deep-seated Swedish aversion to violence, the police would grant enormous concessions to avoid bloodshed.
Sure.
The Stockholm University report on Nordic crime noted that by the end of the 1950s, so like a decade or so before this, robberies were more or less unheard of in Nordic countries. The country is well known for its peace and prosperity and liberal social welfare, especially during the 60s and 70s. It's considered as like the socialist country, right? Like free education, free healthcare.
It's a utopia.
It's a utopia, right? So there's like not a whole lot of crime. Another reason he believed that his demands would be met quickly, a national campaign was in full swing. He believed politicians would not want this as a talking point against them, let alone an event of violence against them. He said, quote, "I had lives for assets. What could be more valuable?" And then also, there is no chance, quote, "the government would risk killing the women if he did not get his way. Not in Sweden. Certainly not in this year when the prime minister faced a close election."
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's another note that will get mentioned later on. The king at this point, who's kind of seen as like a symbol of like stability, is on his like deathbed. Essentially, he'll die in a couple months.
So he's about to throw Sweden upside down. With this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and so he has not picked this time without thinking about it.
Okay.
Yes.
Wait, hold on. So Clark, is he just like hot for him? Is that like a head fake, or is he in on it?
I don't know. You'll find out.
Okay.
Yeah. The demands were communicated from the police force to the Minister of Justice, Lennart Geijer. It's like Geijer, and there's like the Y is like 2 syllables, and I can't quite pronounce it quite right. It's not just gayer like Grant. It's like gay.
That was so unexpected and so good too at the same time. That was really well done. That legitimately put a smile, because I'm so focused on the details too that you're like not gayer like Grant. I was like, she sees me. She gets it.
Me?
I'm sorry. You called upon it. You decide later when you listen if this story needs to get cut or not.
It'll be Casey that cuts it.
2 kids were arguing in my room over lunch one day this week. And they're speech kids, so it's fun to kind of like, chat with them, joke around with them. And one kid, student 1 goes, "I told you, I'm like not gay." And I look at student 1 and I go, "And what'd be so wrong about that, student 1?" And he goes, "Oh, no, nothing's like wrong with it. But student 2 keeps calling me gay." And I look at student 2 and I go, "Student 2, come on." And then student 1 goes, "Well, what's that supposed to mean?" And I go, "Look, you can't be gay and not gay, kid. You gotta pick one."
I love that. Actually, that's really funny.
It's also technically bi and panty erasure, but the delivery was really crucial, and it was really delivered really well.
What does that mean?
Everyone had a good laugh about it.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. The demands.
Gayer, right, sorry.
Gaye. The demands are being communicated to the Minister of Justice, and the Minister of Justice is adamant that the gunman not be allowed to leave with the hostages. That's important fact number 1. And he was backed on this by the Prime Minister, Olof Palme, and other high-ranking cabinet members at the time. The Minister of Justice did say, however, that the police would have free hand in managing the case, but the safety of the hostages was to be the basis for all the decisions. So, like, basically, you can do whatever you want with the rest of those demands.
Right.
You cannot let them leave with the hostages. With the hostage, yeah. That's
going to be a pretty sticky point, I'm assuming.
Well, yeah. At this point, this has become kind of a huge public and media fanfare. There are people gathering in the town square to watch this go down.
This is during what year you said?
1973.
Yeah, I'd go down.
Yeah.
I mean, what else are you going to do?
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
I don't have streaming.
I think it's reported that like 78% of the country was tuning in somehow, whether it was by like news or radio, to like see what happened if they weren't like physically in the square watching what happened. So it captures...
Sweden's a fun size that way.
Right?
You know?
Like you could just go around, because Finland's not real, remember?
Right, exactly.
Like right next to it.
It's straight to Japan. That's why their languages look so similar.
Exactly.
I'm really proud for remembering that a little bit. Anyways.
Proud of you.
Thanks.
So it captures headlines and attention across the country and across the world. The public near the scene on the crime floor of the crime phone police headquarters with suggestions for how to end the standoff.
I am sorry, but I actually...
I have a really good idea.
I have walked around the square many times, and I have some thoughts.
Here's two of my favorites.
Did they open a tip line, or were they just like,
know.
hello, 911, yes, I'd like to talk to the chief negotiator. I have a thought.
I don't know, and I didn't do any more research because these two suggestions I'm about to read to you were so unhinged.
I hope one of them's like, we release a bunch of snakes.
You're not far off.
Oh, shit. Okay, go ahead.
So the first one, hold a concert of religious tunes by the Salvation Army Band.
What? What? They're like, I know this person needs Jesus. Then he wouldn't kill the 3 hostages. You mean the man that famously flooded the entire world? Kidding. Just ask Abraham what his thoughts are on all of that stuff. See? I was a good little church boy. Went to Sunday school. Learned my lessons.
We know.
No, too real.
Yeah.
Thanks.
The second, send a swarm of angry bees into the bank to sting the criminals into submission.
That's the Danny DeVito. Anyways, I just start blasting.
There's an Office episode where they have a new manager come in, or like a new overseer person. It's Charles Minor, Idris Elba. And he's like trying to figure out what to do with the Michael Scott Paper Company because they're like taking all of Dunder Mifflin's clients. And Idris Elba's character has kind of like decided that Jim is like good for nothing, and Dwight is his number 2 man. So they're all in the room together, like negotiating, and Jim is like kind of egging Dwight on because he's like, "Do you see what you've done?"
Right, exactly.
And Dwight's first thing is like, "God, I wish Michael had children. That's where you really put the pressure on." And then the second thing he says, he's like, "Here's what you go. Here's what you do. I have an apiarist that owes me a favor. We get a queen bee." Put it in their vets.
See, the crazy thing to me is, and I think this has been tried before, and I think it resulted in everyone dying. I'm actually maybe thinking specifically of the Patty Hearst case now. But you start a fire, and when the smoke knocks everybody out, then you rush in.
Here's the issue.
It's a timing issue, right? Because too much smoke, they all die.
Too little smoke, the fire takes itself out, and then everything is left as evidence for the police.
Boy, Casey really was an Eagle Scout, wasn't he?
Yeah. Well, no, remember there's the first Patty Hearst fire. It's before Patty Hearst like officially joins.
That's
They try and burn everything.
And that's when the police were like, we don't need this bucket of evidence.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and properly burn it for
let's
him.
kidnap Patty Hearst.
If crime wasn't so funny, where would we be?
Listen,
So they're not going to start a fire.
No, they're not going to start a fire.
Well, let's revisit the bees then.
Yeah, the bees. You know, I'm not opposed to the Salvation Army Band because there's so many people around. You need some entertainment.
That's actually so true. That crowd gets restless after a while.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, Grant, you remember the demands made by the gunman?
Money, hostages so he can get out, and release Hot Clark.
And like a bunch of like guns and protective.
Sure. But I just kind of figured that was with the territory.
Yeah, basically. What do you believe the first thing that they're going to deliver is?
I think they're going to go get Clark.
Yeah, which is fucking unhinged.
Right, okay, here's the thing. When you were like, what do you think they're going to do? I'm like, what's the stupidest thing? Let's add a second criminal in, and then there'll be 2 criminals.
Here's the thing is that it's not super clear that the gunman was like, bring Clark to me. Like, was it just
No, wait. I'm obsessed with the idea of the government being like, shit, I think...
You would come.
Hi, Clark. So, my name's Rob. I'm Rob. I was just trying. I thought it'd be like a little funny thing to add. You were actually supposed to be the decoy to like throw them off, and now you're actually actively part of the crime. Wait, so do they bring Clark in to like negotiate?
They bring him in, so they're all on the second floor. They literally send him down the stairs into the first floor. Yeah.
What?
Whatever, it's fucking fine. So they release the well-known, publicly loved Clark Olsson.
That's right, this criminal's also like hugely popular.
Yeah, and the robbery takes place at around like 10:30 in the morning. They get Clark to him by 4 p.m. The penitentiary's 90 miles away.
One way.
Yeah. What?
Like, the crime happens immediately, and someone was like, quick, go double check that Clark's there.
Yeah.
And then halfway there, they were like, actually, just go ahead and pick him up.
Just bring him up.
I'm also now realizing that it's not like your mom's house.
Yeah.
They didn't have to send someone down and then send someone back.
Yeah, they could, like, call.
They could just send someone up.
It's just fucking ridiculous how fast
it's not
happened.
an airport run. Like, it's
yeah.
part of the criminal justice system.
It's just, they didn't just like release him and like keep him outside. And even if he said, bring him to me, you could be like, okay, he's here.
Right.
Release the hostages and we'll send it. No, they were like, here you go.
Do they at least like put a leash on him or something?
No.
They're just like, here's some free range Clark.
Here's
go
a
join this
Clark,
robbery.
known for like other bank robberies, like assaulting police officers.
Have they never heard two heads are better than one? Why would you put two criminals there? Especially if one of them's hot.
Especially ones that's known to be charismatic.
Okay, so they add Clark to this like toxic mix.
Yeah. They believe that the gunman is gonna like recognizes Clark from like the public media and recognizes him as like a folk hero. And what they don't know is that the gunman is actually 32-year-old Jan-Erik Olofsson and was cellmates with Clark Olsson in prison.
Okay.
So they are buddy-buddy, and this might have actually even been planned, where he was like, okay, we're gonna get into a little bit of Clark or a little bit of Jan before I like say all I want to say.
Okay.
So Jan-Erik Olofsson is, of course, Swedish. He is not actually American. He's pretending to kind of hide his identity. He has intentionally tried to appear American as to throw off the police. The line, "The party has just begun," is a line he reportedly learned from an American movie about a convict on the loose, although that movie has never been like identified. So maybe he like...
I love that. I like to think that it's like a misquote.
Yeah.
That they had like an American movie and that they were translating it to like the Swedish.
Yeah.
And then he translated it back to American English.
Well, I did hear another source that said the quote was not "the party has just begun," "the party is started," or something like that. So I think there's probably some kind of mistranslation.
It'd be like walking in and yelling like, "Giddy on, cowboy!"
Yeah, it's like,
and it's like, babes, oh yikes!
You're so
like,
close.
all of that super close. Yeah.
Yeah. Jan is another career criminal. He's committed several armed robberies and acts of violence. The first when he was 16, so not far off from Clark Olsson. It's gonna get confusing. Clark Olsson and then Jan Olsson.
Okay.
Jan had been convicted in February of 1972 for grand larceny. He is kind of like an expert safe cracker.
Oh.
Yeah.
Really convenient that he's in a bank then.
Yeah, crazy. Absolutely bananas. He was convicted in 1972 for grand larceny. He had gained some notoriety when he robbed the home of an elderly couple in Helsingborg. They had come home unexpectedly during the robbery, surprising Jan. And upon seeing Jan ransacking their home, the husband kind of keeled over and had a heart attack or something similar to that. And the wife asked Jan to retrieve his heart medicine for her. And he did.
What is Sweden?
And then he brought it to her and then just continued robbing them.
That's wild.
Yeah. And then escaped with a considerable prize.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. It's not sure if that is the grand larceny that got him in prison in 1972, but nonetheless, he was sentenced to 3 years at a penitentiary in Kalmar. He had served about half of his 3-year sentence, and then Jan was released on a brief furlough for good behavior for a few weeks before this robbery occurred in Stockholm, and shock, he didn't fucking come back.
I just love that Sweden runs its criminal justice system the way I run the behavior management system in my classroom. It's like Monday, assigned seats. Tuesday, I was good, mister. Can I sit where I want now? Okay. Tuesday, awful. Worst day ever. Wednesday, back to assigned seats. Don't even talk to me about it. Thursday, I was good yesterday, mister. When will I learn? Sweden.
Yes.
Sweden.
Why are you releasing people? Also, especially if he's buddy-buddy with someone who has escaped prison multiple times.
Right.
My dude.
Also, what do you mean furlough for good behavior? Just tack it on at the end of the sentence and let him go early.
Exactly. I was like, that is insane behavior that they let this happen. In the days prior to the crime, when he was technically like supposed to have been back in prison, he was actually hiding out with a female friend of Clark's, one who was pregnant with Clark's child. You know, he gets around.
I mean, I'm excited to see the movie Challengers too. You know what I'm talking about right now?
Yeah,
okay.
100%.
I mean, there's just like so much weird energy there. I'm like super excited about it.
Isn't that Zendaya's also in that one, isn't she?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. I'll watch anything with Zendaya.
Same. So, I can't wait to go from Dune to Challengers. Just all her weird little bisexual boyfriends.
Someone was commenting if Zendaya and Tom Holland get married, does Tom then just become Tom?
Oh.
No last name? Because
Zendaya
obviously
Holland sounds weird.
He's going to take her last name.
Hey, what is Zendaya's last name?
I don't know. I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
Euphoria, right?
Yes.
Zendaya Euphoria sounds like a real name, though.
Yeah, it does. I'd believe it. Or at least a stage name, for sure. So, the real reason Clark was allowed to join Jan was...
Sorry. Yes. Doesn't become Tom or Tom Euphoria. He goes from Tom Holland to Tom the Netherlands.
Damn
That's
it.
That's dumb.
That's really dumb, but it's really funny.
You can use it. You don't even need to credit me. Like, that's totally fine. You can totally...
Oh, I use a lot of your jokes.
I told this guy I went to dinner with.
Yeah.
It was a couple days ago.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, no, I can know where that part of your home state is. Like, I'm a history teacher, so like I'm a huge geography nerd. And then he hit me with like U.S. or international, and I was like, both. Like, what are you supposed to say to that? My love of maps doesn't stop at like the continental United States. I don't know.
After Mexico, before Mexico.
I told you I'm weird, and you said how high.
He's growing on me.
Okay, so these two men are literally roommates, and they were roommates. And then they planned this crime.
But the funniest part about this is that the police don't know who Jan is, so Clark gets pulled out of prison.
Wait.
And it's not clear if Clark's in on it.
Wait.
Yeah.
Wait. Clark's roommate doesn't come back from furlough. So Clark's alone in the jail.
I'm not sure if they were cellmates or if they were just friends in prison. There's a couple different sources that said different things.
Like, you actually brought this upon yourself.
No,
if Clark's roommate doesn't return from furlough.
It's also possible...
And then bank robbery happens. And they're like, bring me Clark! Bring me Clark!
It's also possible that, like, maybe one of them had been transferred. I'm not sure if they were still at the same...
Okay.
There's... Sources weren't super clear, and I didn't feel like reading through more translated, old, archived newspapers.
They weren't podcasters. They didn't know the right questions to ask.
Ironically, both of these people have been on podcasts since this happened. One of them was like on the podcast in 2019, and I was like, I'm sorry, what?
You really do mean no one dies in this story.
No one dies in this story. They are all still alive.
We should source more of our true crime stuff from Sweden. It seems kinder.
Seems really great. I don't know. So I love the fact that the police like bring Clark, and there was a story, I didn't write it down. I don't know. I think it was one of the hostages that recounted this later, that Clark like walked downstairs and like into where Jan was keeping the hostages. I think it was kind of just in the lobby at this point. And Clark goes, "Oh, it's you." It's like,
I don't know what's funnier, if that was staged, if Clark had to be like stage read like, "Oh, it's you," or if it's like authentic, like, "Oh, you're the one who got me out."
It's not, because he agrees to keep Jan's identity a secret.
Oh.
And so he doesn't even tell the police afterwards, "Oh, it's my buddy," you know? Which is fucking wild. So
what do the police say when they're like, well, then what did you mean when you say, "Oh, it's you"?
I don't think they heard.
Okay.
I think it was like he was far enough away.
Oh, the hostages were like, he immediately knew who he was.
Yeah. So since the police didn't know that Jan knew Clark, they didn't know that it was going to be a risk releasing Clark to Jan, thinking that they could keep thinking that they could kind of keep Clark on their side.
Right.
Both of them are career criminals. Like, what do you really think is going to happen? They do tell Clark prior to like letting him go that this is his chance to be a hero. That his job is to go in there and convince the gunman to surrender and release the hostages. The same fucking thing they told Bo, the goddamn bookkeeper.
There's like all these cops and they're like, here's a gun and a badge. And before you start blasting, yell, stop, it's the police. Good luck. We'll be on the outside.
Have fun.
Exactly.
And like realistically.
You get back in there, sport. What? You're law enforcement.
It's
who couldn't get enough bees, and that's why I'm here.
And so realistically, even if Clark succeeds in this, they're gonna send him back to jail to finish his sentence.
I can't wait for some like inspirational speaker at the next work PD to be like, today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about some people who are down on their luck. And it's just the story about people who like chose to be a hero and like went the extra mile.
Yeah.
And that's why when we take away your weekends, you should say, thank you, can I have another? Works great. Works really healthy.
I
right
love
now.
work. It's so fun. You should be ready to
Boy, this
travel
really-
anytime.
We go into a different setting, and I'm like, what are all the secrets I've been keeping to myself the last couple weeks? So
Well, here's for you.
Clark's like, I'll go into the bank.
I'll go down there and I'll definitely tell him to surrender.
Because I guess at one point Clark has to be like, yes, okay, I will do this. Like, they can't like push him down the stairs.
Yeah, no, he has to agree.
He has to like on his own volition go down
But also,
the
like,
stairs.
he's charismatic. He's probably smart enough to be calculating that he's like, I'm going to go down there and then I'm going to fucking rob a bank.
But also he has to be like, even if I don't, I mean, what's waiting for me? Like more prison?
Yeah.
Like, at least this is a field trip,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Clark is literally doing it for the plot and maybe also lots of money, but mainly for the plot.
I feel like he's the Jacob of the story. He's
Oh,
just in it
100%.
for the
He's
in it
also
for the bit.
the Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, I'm gonna steal
the
Declaration of Independence.
that this guy stole in the first place.
Yes, exactly. So, prior to Clark being released into the bank, Jan is clearly very stressed. He's being very controlling of the hostages. He's having a lot of mood swings. He's like freaking out over all the like negotiations and also managing the hostages and everything. He would yell every once in a while, and then as soon as Clark comes in, it seems like kind of like a calm. Like Jan's a lot more chill now.
He has to pretend to be cool about everything. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, he's like, okay, Clark's here. Like now, there's at least two of us
I
to
just
manage
imagine
everything.
Jan like starts like leaning on things.
Yeah.
He's like, this whole thing's like so stupid.
Yeah,
I'm
Clark,
so-
like, come on, yeah.
So are you talking to like other guys in
Yeah,
prison? Or
exactly.
How's your new roommate? You miss me at all? Or I just feel like all human reactions are the same, and we've all experienced them.
100%. So he's a lot more chill now. Clark also, well, is an accomplice at this point.
Okay, because part of me is like, what do you say? We're like, I bet you're wondering why I gathered you here, the middle of a hostage negotiation.
So he knows Jan from prison, but at this point, the police still don't know his identity, Jan's identity. So he promises Jan that he'll keep it a secret. He convinces Jan to let him untie the women, and so he does. And he tells them that they're safe, that they have nothing to fear from them. The men have no intention of harming them. They're truly just like kind of pawns, essentially.
Sure.
But like Clark has never actually like hurt anyone.
We need you alive.
Yeah, we need you alive. Like, we're not going to hurt you. We have the best you were in the wrong
Right.
place at the wrong time. Like, that's fine. And then he also like offers them food that had been sent by the police during some of the negotiations. He's like, here, I'm going to untie you and have a little snack. And I love
And
that.
it's a box of bees over right down to check first.
See, that would have been good. He also brings a phone into the bank and allows the hostages to call their families.
Aww.
And it's at this point, when they're calling their families, that we realize the police have not told a single family that their family member is being held hostage.
That's so funny because like every single person in the country is watching this robbery
Yeah.
happen,
And
the
this has
police
been-
were like, "Ma'am."
Like, at least this is probably like 5 p.m. now. Like, this is This is a significant amount of time later. This is 7 hours.
Also, how has the employer not notified family? Next time your employer says, we're family here, be like, well, would you notify my family in the event that we were taken hostage?
Yeah.
Because I can't trust law enforcement to do it.
Seriously. And so they're like
what
calling.
kind of Olive Garden is this?
They're calling their family and they're like, I'm safe. And the family's like, what?
From what, babes?
What do you mean you're safe?
You better hurry up. It's commercial for the national bank robbery that we're watching right now. It's delaying Jeopardy.
Exactly. And so Brigitta Lundblad, one of the 3 women, was also allowed to call her family along with the other 2. She's the one with the 2 kids. She's the only one with kids out of the hostages.
Right.
She's able to reach her mother, but she's not able to reach, I think, her husband or her girls. And that's what she's really worried about. And so she starts crying. She's like very stressed out. And Jan-Erik like goes up to her and he's like, listen, like, don't give up, keep trying, like you can try again in a few minutes, and like gives her the phone again later. So is like comforting her in this at this point. Back to Clark. Clark uses some explosives to blow open the cashier's drawer, which held around 90,000 kroner.
How much is that?
I don't know. I didn't look.
I remember what that was like in Prague. It's like, okay, so he steals like a nice dinner's worth of money.
Okay, hold on. Let me look at what they recommend, or what he asked for 3 million kroner, which was $700,000.
And he instead, and then
in the bank thing that he was able to pull out, it was 90,000 kroner. So it's like, it's not much, but it's a significant amount.
Sure.
Yeah. He also burned all the film and all the security cameras around, and he scouted the main floor of the bank to make sure that the police were staying upstairs and not infiltrating. Kind of crazy
how much stuff they kept on the first floor of this bank.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 6 hours into the robbery, this is around the time that Clark is doing some of his rounds, making sure that the police are not infiltrating. He happens upon a young man that is hiding in a stockroom. This is 24-year-old Sven Safstrom.
Second Sven.
He's a 24-year-old employee of the bank who had hidden himself in the stockroom. He was like, oh shit, something's going down. I'm just gonna hang here and wait for help. And then help never came.
Relatable. Sven's like, that's it. Okay, so I'm gonna close the door.
And we'll wait for the police to come and rescue me. And the police never came.
That man drowns on the Titanic. I want you to know.
Yeah. So seeing that it would be a risk to send him out, and also more hostages could never hurt, right? Clark is like, I guess we'll keep him.
Everything in moderation, including moderation.
Yeah. And so he says, well, come have a drink with us, or something like that. Come eat with us, or something like that.
Would you like to call your mom? I bet you're scared right now.
Yeah? Come on.
Hey, we all get scared sometimes. That's okay.
Come on.
Shh. Has like the gun to his head.
Yeah.
Shh. You'll be all right, babes.
Sven would later recall, well, I wonder what my mother will think now about my working here. And here's the backstory of Sven. Sven's mother had helped him get the job as a junior exec at the bank.
Hold on, is that like glorified like intern high schooler, or like Nepo baby? I shouldn't be
Nepo baby, for sure.
Love it.
Because both of his parents are government officials.
And he wants to make art, right?
I don't think Sven knows what he wants at this point, and I think that's why he got the job.
That means he wants to make art.
Probably.
He wants to make tiny little red bears.
Yeah.
Like the one between us.
Yeah. So his mom had gotten him that job at the bank because they were concerned that it was taking Sven a long time to find himself. Previous to this, he had been a kitchen menial on a cruise ship bound for America.
He had been a kitchen mule?
Menial. M-E-N-I-A-L.
Somehow that sounds more humiliating.
Yeah, it does. He had found that he liked the bank job more than he had thought. And whenever he didn't like the job, he, quote, could just remember that being there wasn't my idea.
That's so zen. That's so great.
He was just like, well,
I hate being here, but what other choice I have? I still have good taste. Off to work I go.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, time to go be in charge of people who I don't deserve to be in charge of.
Well, if you have a boss that's like that, write in.
We will keep you anonymous unless you've quit the job and now you want us all to share it.
Yes. So Clark kind of leads him back to Jan, and Jan's pretty suspicious of the new random unwanted hostage.
Male too, not hot.
He Jan specifically chose young women, thinking that they would be harder for like the police to
let get killed.
Yeah, let get killed. And so now he has this still young man.
Sure.
And he's like,
but child of government officials. That can't
I don't
hurt.
think they know that yet.
Right.
I
They
think
are
they
not
probably will at some
quick
point.
on some of the information gathering.
No.
That's actually another thing too. How are they not going through a list of like checking to make sure everyone's? How is the bank not checking if all of its employees are accounted for?
That's it. That's what's bothering
How
me.
is no one being like, well, let's just do a quick little roll call?
How has it been 6 hours and they're like, my son Sven, where is he?
Exactly.
How has no one noticed?
There's a bank robbery at the bank my son works at.
He's been
well, I'm sure
crouched
if
in a
he's in trouble,
storeroom.
he'd call me.
Yeah.
What?
I know, fucking insane.
I also, like, again, not to bring up insurance for the second time this episode, but part of me has to be like, you want to know that number just for insurance purposes. When we go on field trips, I count the number of heads that I have in my group after we cross every street.
As a summer camp counselor, I did the exact same thing. I was like, oh shit, guys, stop moving.
See, I remember this conversation specifically because now whenever we go on field trips, I'm like, well, you can kind of predict the motion of a group and you can count that way. And you did that exact face. And now every time I do it, I'm like, better.
All right.
I deserve
anyway.
it. I'm not gonna retract it, but I do deserve it.
So he was very suspicious of Sven because he's like not an expected hostage.
He also has the exact same name as the chief of police.
Yeah. Are you wearing a mask? Be honest.
You have to tell us.
So at some point he's kind of interrogating Sven, and he finds out that Sven had actually been to like some kind of military training and had learned how to use a submachine gun. And so Jan was like, but I have a submachine gun, and that's how I robbed this bank. Are you gonna try and use my submachine gun? And so he tries to trick him. He like falls asleep in a chair. He pretends to fall asleep in a chair and like kind of lets the submachine gun kind of like half dangle out of his grasp really close to where Sven is sitting. Thinking if Sven's gonna try something, like I think at this point the pistols have not been delivered yet.
Sure. They're
So this
still
is the
getting
only
them.
gun. Yeah.
We can get a criminal right away, but it's actually really hard to get a weapon
pistols.
in Sweden.
I'm not sure how quickly the pistols made it, but I don't think they're in play yet. And so he's like kind of dangling, like tempting fate, I guess, seeing if Sven's going to try and be a hero. And Sven made no move to grab the gun. And
the guy who cowered in a supply closet
yeah, I was like,
for
that's
hours.
shocking. Well, because I think Jan was thinking that it was like someone undercover or something like that.
Sure.
Yeah. And so Jan would later say, quote, I was glad for his sake he didn't.
Jan was like, I would never murder a woman, but that little coward, I'd take his head off in a second.
Okay.
But I won't. Also, this feels like such an important lesson. If you're going to rob a bank, sure, you're focused on that first 5 minutes where there's like a lot of action. But where you slip up is the like long hours of waiting where they test your mettle and if you actually kill a hostage or not. Bring a book. And probably some energy drinks.
I think they play a bunch of like poker and checkers. There was a couple reports that I didn't write down, but there was like reports of them like playing games together.
As in like Clark and Jan, or like all 5 of them together?
I think Clark and Jan at first, and then probably some of the hostages as well, playing
I
with them.
absolutely kicked some ass today in checkers. Here's the thing. They're high schoolers. I'm ruthless.
That's fair. I
blew
would
out
be
a
too.
kid 12-1.
I played chess with some kids that wanted to play chess in summer camp, and I was like, do you know the rules? And they were like, kinda. And I was like, girl, you...
Excellent.
I was like, I don't know how to play chess, but I could really stand to win.
It helps the confidence.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so Sven doesn't grab the gun, and so everything's fine. The remaining demands. Officers deliver a blue Ford Mustang with a full tank of gas. But they keep the keys because they're like, you can't leave with the hostages. So we need to sort that out first. But here's the car. And then they...
It just increasingly feels like the price is right.
It's fucking stupid is what it is. And then they also start giving him some of the money, like a little bit at a time, I think. And so they toss him a bag of freshly printed money, which he refers to later as, quote, funny money, because it's all like unrumpled, and also all of the serial numbers are consecutive, so it'd be really easy to track. And so that's my other stipulation, is that it has to be all, as he said, old rumpled money. Old rumpled money.
Give me the stuff you're about to shred. That's what I want.
Yeah, exactly. And so it takes them a couple hours, I think, to like find banks that will give them like not freshly printed money for the 7 million kroner
crazy.
or
Did
whatever.
not think I was going to hear an argument for the Federal Reserve in the middle of this episode.
And so he demands be given older money, and so they're able to do that within a few hours. However, they do deny him his demand to leave with the hostages in tow, and for this reason, they deliver the Mustang, but withhold the keys, therefore trapping the criminals. And this is the sticking point, and the gunman and Clark end up in a standoff with the police, as they didn't trust that they would not be gunned down if they were to leave alone. So thus starts the siege. Eventually, the two men, Clark and Jan, and the 4 hostages set up their base of operations in the bank vault. The bank vault obviously has like several feet deep steel walls, you know, and then has like one door that can be, I think, locked from the outside. Okay. And it is 47 feet long and 11 feet wide. So it's like kind of a hallway.
It's like everyone's first apartment.
Essentially, yeah. Okay. And the ceiling was only 7.5 feet high. So it does feel pretty cramped. The walls are lined with sizable steel cabinets that have safety deposit boxes. It also has 4 writing desks, chairs, plastic waste baskets, and a telephone that I don't actually believe is like connected to anywhere except maybe upstairs.
Sure. Do you know what I think I would do as I'm thinking about like how do I problem solve this situation? Yeah. I would say this. I would say, fine, I will leave you the hostages. In exchange, I want the crown jewels. And after I'm off safely, I will let you know where you can find them.
I would just keep the crown jewels.
Oh, and then you're going to sell the Swedish crown jewels? Yeah. Are you also going to sell a couple of Rembrandts and veneers from the Gardner Museum?
I feel like jewels are a lot easier.
Sure, you're just going to break them up.
Yeah.
Hammer.
This is a picture of them in the vault.
Wait. Do they recreate this?
No, this is...
Or is
so
Sven
at some
like,
point...
let's capture this moment?
No, I think at some point the commissioner is allowed to go in and make sure that they're all healthy.
Sorry. I'm laughing in part at this photo. They look scared. Yeah. But they also look tired of being scared.
I'm pretty sure this is probably the end of day 2.
Okay.
I think. Or maybe day 3.
Yeah, they also, this looks like ABBA.
Yeah,
but
it does.
They look tired. They're tired.
There's 2 women sitting on the ground and then a man kind of peeking around a corner.
I think actually the women are in chairs from what it looks like.
Yeah, probably.
And then is this Clark or is this Jan?
I think that might be Sven. That's definitely not Jan. Jan's blonde.
This looks like a man who lost his way. So yeah, I think this is
Sven. I think that's Sven too.
This looks like a man you would find hiding in the storage room.
He's like, oh shit.
Listen.
What would my mom think of me?
Clark is like a sterling-eyed, strong-jawed. I mean, he's a criminal, but I mean,
he's cute.
I mean, it doesn't sound like his crimes were too bad.
Yeah, because he's hot.
Everyone can be reformed. Yeah. I can change him.
Yeah.
I can't get over how over they seem to be in this photo. I keep just kind of zooming in.
Yeah.
And it's like...
They're like, come on.
I've seen this face today in my class. Like, I finished the assignment, but there's nothing else for me to do, and I can't be on my phone. So I'm just stuck in this prison forever.
That's literally what they look like. They look absolutely exhausted. They're like leaning their heads kind of against the cabinets with the safety deposit boxes. And so the vault door is left open, kind of cracked. It allows food to be delivered, etc. And... we're gonna go back. Remember when I said the police think that this man is Kaj Hansson? Yeah. 21-year-old Kaj Hansson. There's even a New York Times article that I was able to find published on day 2 of this standoff. Okay. That refers to the other gunman as Kaj. And it's like Clark and Kaj. It's like that was never the case.
Bonnie and Clyde. Clark and Clyde.
Clark and Kaj. And so. They are so convinced that the gunman is Kaj that they brought in Kai's younger brother to help with negotiations. One of Kai's younger brothers, and then I think they allowed the younger brother's friend to go in with him. They are 17.
Why do they keep sending non-police officers into
minors,
this?
Literal fucking children.
I couldn't imagine... Sorry, and you know I love her, and you know I'm one of the only ones that can say this, but if you called me up from Denver and be like, Grant, you need to go back to your hometown, your sister has robbed a bank, and we need you to negotiate with her, I think my honest to God answer would be like, I don't know why you think she's going to listen to me. For the first time ever, she's going to listen to me and trust my opinion.
Mistakes. Absolutely fucking mistakes.
If you want the name of someone who will listen to her, I don't know who to tell you.
Mom, maybe.
I mean, like, are you going to fly me on Frontier or like United? I'll go.
If it's a private jet, I'll go for the bit.
Griffin's going to be having so many funny thoughts about this. I got to kiki with Griffin and Taylor over it.
Yeah.
I also want to point out now, my sister would never rob a bank.
Oh, no, she wouldn't.
At least not in her current era.
No. She would have to be in a very different villain era.
Yeah, her 20s.
Yeah, that's fair. So they send the minors, the two minor, M-I-N-O-R, not like pickaxe minors.
No one else was thinking that. I want you to know.
So they send him into the bank. And they're going into the bank kind of calling Kai's name, saying like, it's your brother. And then they get shot at. Obviously. Nothing, they don't get hurt, so they just retreat and they're like, what the fuck? That was uncalled for. And the police are like, oh, don't worry, they weren't shooting at you.
They were shooting at the idea of you.
What the fuck does that mean? And so they're like,
you're not going to tell your parents about this.
Yeah.
Right?
they're like, go in and try again. Like make it clear.
And then the brothers are like, Mom, Dad, well, we didn't free the hostages, but we're okay. And the parents are like, what do you mean? Where were you?
What hostages?
At this point, I can only assume no one is being informed of anything.
Yeah, they know that the event is happening. They have no idea who's involved.
Because we know, you and I know, that it's not Kai.
Yeah.
I can't wait until you get to the part of the story where they're like, and then here's Kai.
Yeah.
And they're like, shit.
Oh, you just wait. So they send the boys back in, and the boys are like, it's your brother, Kai, like Kaj Hansson, come out, wherever you are. And they get shot at again, and Clark yells, can't you tell he's serious? And Jan yells something like, there's no one named Kai here.
Not Clark getting brought in by the robber and then doing the cops' jobs for like, you have the wrong guy.
Yeah. And
where are we on the keys to the blue car?
Literally.
You better be Sid from Toyotathon or else we don't want you. Honda Day's also fine. Yeah.
So Kai's younger brother, Dan, calls the police idiots and says, you have the wrong guy.
Oh my God, it's not even my brother.
It's not my brother.
Also, I can't believe I thought my brother would rob a bank. Like, those brothers then do have a weird conversation to have afterwards.
Well, here's the thing is that Kai is actually on the run and is known as a bank robber. So it's possible.
No, I love brothers that are like, don't try to change him. Love him for who he is.
And then Kai calls the police from hiding to quote, indignantly deny that he would stoop to so foul a deed as taking hostages. So
I want you to know that when I rob a bank, I kill him, okay? I would never keep him in this weird limbo.
Also, this isn't Kai.
Exactly.
Don't
but are his
call.
brothers okay? And tell Mom, Merry Christmas.
I just imagine the cops getting that call, and they're like, well?
First off, what is going on in Sweden at this time? It's like a very peaceful country, but none of their prisoners are in prison. Also, it's like such a big news event that even people in hiding are like, hey, do you see the crime going on right now? And
hey,
like,
that's not me.
Imagine Kai getting caught up because the line's busy with the B suggestion.
He's like,
you are 38th in line.
He gets like the classic music.
Ba, 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 ba.
I imagine him dancing around the kitchen.
No. They're Swedish.
Oh my God. And so they're like, well, who the fuck is in there?
No, it becomes a who's who and a who's not, you know?
Yeah.
They're like, I imagine a fourth criminal who's also on the run being like, oh, so they don't even think it could kind of be me?
That's so rude.
What, do they think I couldn't pull something up
this
like
is
that?
my MO. He's like worked so hard. Okay.
Like the Burger King of this robbery, and they're like, now everything's about me.
So it's confirmed this is not Kai.
Sorry, also just on Burger King, who is going there? There's a Burger King in my neighborhood, and there's always a car in the drive-thru, and I'm like, what?
Casey made a good point that they're the only ones that haven't really price surged recently.
Maybe I'm going to burgers.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
So a few days into the negotiation, days, plural. I think it's like at the end of day 2.
Okay.
I'm not sure if maybe Jan breaks back into Swedish or if he's talking still in his American accent, but someone finally recognizes his voice and is able to pin him as Jan-Erik Olofsson because he's also a fucking career criminal.
Not Ronald Reagan.
Not in prison when he should be. Anyway. And so with that, we're going to take a quick break to refresh drinks and we'll be right
Amazing.
back.
That's a really good cliffhanger. We can really lose a thread when we take those little breaks,
Yeah.
but we're back. What happened right when we cut off?
I don't know.
I know for them it just happened.
Yeah. So they find out that it's Jan-Erik.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. The whole brother. So they sent the brother in. He was like, they shot at me and
Twice.
And he was like, but no, try again. And then he got shot at again. And he was like, you guys are fucking idiots. And also, I'm a child.
And the child mentioned a check.
The baby, the child with the power of voodoo. Who do you do?
I don't ever get that, but it's fun to hear the rhyme.
Thank you. I am really bad at it. I feel like I forgot it. Okay, anyway. Now we're going to talk about the victims, the hostages,
okay.
for a little bit. Elisabeth Oldgren suffers from a little bit of claustrophobia.
Sure.
So she started to feel a little claustrophobic. And Jan-Erik allowed her to walk outside of... Remember, they have set up camp in the vault.
Right.
Allowed her to walk outside of the vault attached to a 30-foot rope, which is kind of funny to picture. And you just picture a rope coming out of a
that's
steel
100%.
vault with a woman attached to it
Like
at the
around
end.
her waist, just kind of like...
Yeah. Just like walking a little bit.
I don't have claustrophobia personally, but I don't know if a rope tied around me would help relieve the symptoms.
Yeah. She's quoted later saying all of the victims do an interview for The New Yorker about a year after the incident, I think. And I think this is where that quote comes from. So I think a lot of the quotes from the hostages come from that interview. She says, quote, "I remember thinking he was very kind to allow me to leave the vault." Yeah, that's a weird
The
fucking
Swedes
sentiment.
are like, God, I mean, he was such a good guy about all of it,
Yeah.
though, you know?
Brigitta and Kristen were allowed to go to the bathroom unsupervised at one point. They both see police officers hiding by the stairs, and they asked Kristen how many hostages were there.
Because they don't even know that.
Yes.
Because they're not verifying anything with anybody.
How do
the
they
bank.
not? They should have at least assumed that there's 3. They might not know about Sven, even though his parents are political officials.
Right.
Who should have cued in at this point. They should at least know that there's 3.
How does the bank not have a list of who was working that day and...
How have they not checked? This is probably like...
As a teacher, I have access to a spreadsheet where I could find out who has subs on Monday, right?
I do that.
It's not hard. What?
When we're out with friends.
Yeah.
To make sure we have everyone. They asked Kristen how many hostages there were, and Kristen told them by holding up her fingers, saying, I think at this point they had already found Sven, so 4.
Okay.
And she said, quote, "I showed them with my fingers. I felt like a traitor. I don't know why."
Oh.
Brigitta was also conflicted by the side of the officer. She says, quote, "All I had to do was take a few steps toward them, and I would be able to stop worrying about my 2 daughters. They were very much on my mind, but so were the other hostages, even though our lives had never crossed before. I was afraid I might endanger them, as in the hostages, if I didn't go back. I turned away from the police. I was part of a group. There didn't seem to be anything I could do about it."
That's noble.
Yeah. And
Also,
then,
terrible company culture if they don't even know the other 2 women.
yeah.
I mean, are there coworkers where I'm like, please, for the love of God, do not let me die with this coworker? Of course there is. I'm a human man. But like...
I don't know what Brigitta's position was, but Kristen was the stenographer, so it's possible she was just like in meetings all day and didn't have to deal with it. My microphone just got a limp dick, sorry.
Good, I hope that stays in.
I'm the one that said it, nothing matters. Sven Safstrom is quoted saying, he, as in Jan, treated us well. We could think of him as an emergency god, which is just a very strange quote.
So all 4 of them are like hot for Clark.
Same. I mean, I would too. Jan, I looked up a picture of him And I don't think I actually put it in my notes. He's not bad looking either. He's like blonde though. He's not nearly as like attractive as Clark is.
And he just has that jawline. Like if they're like, what is it about this man? His jawline.
Yeah, it's he's like blonde and a little
mustache.
more like scraggly looking in the picture that I've seen.
I actually just imagine it's Danny DeVito and then like one of the Hemsworth brothers that is like running this operation.
Actually, so they're making a movie, I think, about the situation, or maybe it's a TV show. I think it's called Clark. That's what it's called, because he has a whole other series of stuff that he's done. And he's played by the same guy who played the clown It in the movie It. He's actually very attractive.
I love that
outside of the makeup.
Clark and Miles Connor both like not only lived from this experience, but are now like profiting off of it.
Yeah,
I mean, Miles Connor was in like every single episode of Gentlemen, This Is a Robbery. Anyways, Kristen
Enmark is also had some positive experiences with her captors. Jan-Erik drapes a wool blanket over her shoulders when she begins to start shivering due to the cold in the bank vault, and soothed her when she woke up from a nightmare, and gave her a bullet from his gun as a keepsake, which I guess was like
so he's like flirting.
I think it was also I think like a sign like, here, you're not defenseless or something like that. I don't know. It was,
I can't give you a whole gun.
Yeah,
but here's a bullet. If you threw it really hard, you could distract us.
Something like
that. I just have no idea how bullets work, that I'd be like, I don't want a live bullet.
Yeah.
Like, I'm nervous about this.
At some point, they're trying to get in touch with the Prime Minister to discuss negotiations. Because ultimately, if he says the hostages can go, the hostages can go. He can override that previous ruling by the defense minister. And there's a couple different stories.
What do you mean they're trying to get a hold of the Prime Minister?
There's a couple of stories. One is that Olsson is like Jan is trying to get in touch with him through the police, like over and over again. Or the other story that I read is that Clark just fucking called. And they were like, he was like, hi, it's Clark Olsson. And they were like, say no more.
We'll transfer your call.
Here is the Prime Minister. I'm not sure which is true. I prefer the second story.
Sweden doesn't have a huge population.
No.
So it'd be like holding up like the Wells Fargo downtown and being like, I would like to speak to
the mayor,
Jared Polis.
Yeah.
Someone get him and his sensible New Balance sneakers on the line.
Please. So Olsson, Jan is able to reach the Prime Minister by 11 in the evening of the first day. I'm not sure what goes on in that conversation. It's not super detailed. What is detailed is that, I'm not sure if this is the same call or a different call, Kristen Enmark is on the phone with the Prime Minister. His name is Olof Palme, which I think I already mentioned, who is likely at this point preoccupied with the upcoming elections, as well as the failing health of the country's 90-year-old King Gustav VI Adolf, who would die about a month following the initial robbery.
I love the idea of being like, hey, I know 3-4 innocent young Swedes might die, but an unelected monarch with no real constitutional power
is dying. Because the people see him as a symbol.
And as they said in Dairy Girls, a month away from 98, struck down in her prime.
Yeah. What? I think at this point they're holding a vigil for the king. They're like,
God, imagine actually having to go to work in Sweden.
Deathbed vigils.
It's like deathbed vigils, bank robberies.
Sending miners in to take care of.
For the Swedes, I hope this thing kicked off on like a Monday or Tuesday and really ate up a whole work week.
It was a Thursday.
That's tough because to lose part of your weekend to something like this, that's sucky.
That sucks.
But to lose most of your work week, that's patriotism.
Yeah, and I will say the standoff lasts 6 days, so.
Oh, okay. I thought on like, and then on day 3, now 6 days.
6 days, 130 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, insane. So I think it starts on a Thursday, ends on a Tuesday, or something like that. So she's on the phone with the Prime Minister. Enmark pleads with the Prime Minister to tell the police to allow her to leave with the robbers, saying, I fully trust Clark and the robber. I am not desperate. They haven't done a thing to us. On the contrary, they have been very nice. But you know, Olaf, what I am scared of is that the police will attack and cause us to die. There's like a whole thread of conversation where she's like talking to the prime minister. It's actually like a super casual conversation where the prime minister is like, but I can't do that as prime minister. And she was like, but can you make me prime minister for an hour? And he's like,
shut
joking.
up. She's like, can I have the power of the entire state?
He's like laughing and he's like, no, you can't do that.
I think also constitutionally, like, yes, they could.
Yeah, theoretically.
I mean, the parliamentary system's crazy. I just love the idea that, like, while prime minister, she does two things. One, gets the police not to attack.
Yeah.
Two, invades Finland. Or, like, you know, there's, like,
but Finland doesn't exist.
Huge, right? Norway, sorry.
Yes,
Denmark, Norway, one of the other ones. That, like, something like, okay, that was according to plan, and oh my God, she just made money free, right? Or, like, whatever.
Exactly, yeah, something like that. So she's pleading, she's like, let me go with them. And I think at some point the police try to...
Imagine Brigitta's in the background like, I'll also go with the hot strangers if that's what our country needs.
So the police, I think, try and bargain with the robbers saying, like, you can't take all four, you can take one.
No, please, mister, I promise. This time I'll be good. I won't do the exact same thing I've done all semester.
Literally. And at this point, I don't think the robbers even get a chance to argue it because the hostages are like, no, we all go or none of us go.
We want to see how this thing plays out.
And at this point also...
Which one is not hot? Pick one. Which one's the boring one? Which one's the...
Over the next few days, too...
Because it's definitely Sven, but you can't say it out loud.
You can't say it. No, he has the money, though.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And a job he doesn't deserve.
Yeah. Or really want.
Listen, he needs this.
Yeah, he does. He needs some...
He might not deserve it, but if there's anyone in this vault who really needs to be picked right now... It's Sven.
It's him. He does get some good publicity later on.
Increasingly, I'm like, this wasn't Stockholm Syndrome. This was them being like, well, I don't know. It's been kind of a fun little vacation so far.
Yeah. So I think throughout the course of the next couple days, this is not something I wrote down, but the police do try and infiltrate a couple times, like heading down the stairs and start shooting. And that's making the victims more nervous because they're shooting into a vault. Right. And they're like, hello.
All cartoons have taught me that they then ricochet around.
Yeah, like, I'm in here. Please don't hurt me. And at no point have their captors really even aimed a gun at them seriously or seriously threatened them. I think there's like some...
that one time Jan was like, oh, did you take the gun? Oh, no.
I think at one point when Jan's on the phone with the prime minister, he does hold Elisabeth in like a chokehold, just to like get a reaction. But then that seems to be the end of that. There might have been a couple other instances.
Why didn't they force Jan to exchange one of the hostages for Clark? Why did they just give him a body?
There is no reason.
Okay.
There are so many things they could have done differently. It's actually infuriating.
Like, I'm like playing that tape back now, and like it was a 90-minute drive. It's like the amount of stuff they gave them for nothing in return, you know?
Nothing in return. You gotta negotiate. You gotta give some, get some, you know? Yeah. And the other thing that the hostages seem to be upset about at this point is that they're like, are our lives not worth it? You're not letting them. And then there's multiple occasions where the women are like, I will go with them. I am one of the victims. I feel fine going with them. Let me go with them. And the police are like, we can't do that.
I'd 100% be like, let's roll down these windows. Let's torch it, y'all.
Let's go. It would later be revealed they never end up actually using the getaway car, but it was revealed that they had put a tracker on the getaway car.
Duh.
Yeah, that seems so obvious. Okay. So the police commissioner is allowed to go in and inspect the health of the hostages. He noted that the hostages appeared to be hostile towards him and rather relaxed and even jovial with the gunmen. He was certain the gunmen would not harm the hostages because they had developed a rather relaxed relationship. Here are some pictures of the hostages. This is the top right. Those
are glamour shots.
I know.
Except for Sven.
Yeah, I know. So this is...
She has a little captain's hat in that one.
This is Brigitta.
She looks like the mom. Yeah.
This is Kristen.
Okay.
This one is Elisabeth, and that's Sven, obviously. Yeah, Sven is the least attractive of the lot, but that's not surprising.
I mean, it's not, he just has a lot going against him right now. He has parents who are willing to bend rules to get him a high-paying job, and how do you get over that?
Yeah, that's really real. Yeah, okay. By day 2 of the standoff, the New York Times reported that at least one of the hostages, Sven, quote, was more critical to the authorities than the robbers. And and then the hostages also accused the government of, quote, playing with our lives.
I'd hate for my father, the Minister of Fisheries, to find out what's going on here. Actually, Fisheries is actually probably a big deal. Right. Fisheries is probably a big deal in Sweden. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'd hate for my father, the Pavement King, and my mom, the Strong Arm, to find out. Such a Denver reference.
I love that. Okay. Kristen Enmark is quoted saying to the Times, quote, we are more afraid of the policemen than these two boys. We are discussing and, believe it or not, having a rather good time. They're playing poker and checkers in a vault and
are kind of ordering whatever they want.
Yeah, like Clark's making demands.
Imagine being like, no, it's okay. We'd rather have steaks. We'll pay for it. And then they send out some of the bank's money. Like, what a weird dynamic. Like, what are the rules that are governing your life those 6 days, you know?
There are none.
Hold on. You know what one of the rules is? Gotta be careful. Can't sleep too much.
Or else someone might steal the submachine gun.
Exactly.
The end of that quote is, why can't they let the boys drive off with us in the car? She's like,
why can't we marry one of them? Just kind of see how it works. Give it a shot.
I don't know. One of them's really hot. We'll fight over Clark, and then the other one can have the other one.
I also kind of love that the Swedish police don't seem bothered at all that neither one of these criminals is going to finish their criminal sentence.
No.
They're all like, well, you can't have them. They seem to really like you. Like the police seem solely miffed that they're like, what do you mean you're okay with everything
what does that mean? Jan-Erik at some point does threaten to shoot Sven in the leg. Just in order to shake the police up. He's sick of nothing happening.
I like to think that it was Sven's idea. To be like, shoot me in the leg. We can kind of... And he's like, I don't want to. He's like, either you shoot me in the leg or I'll do it and I'll say it to you, but we all know you're the better shot.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is such a rich for dialogue moment. Also, I think this is our sign that we need to stop watching, like, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and What We Do in the Shadows.
Yes, exactly.
We're just taking it to the parody extreme.
Yeah, literally.
Remind me, parody extreme for Patreon.
Okay, perfect.
The thing I have to tell you is another work story, but too an approach for this setting.
I love it. Okay. Sven would later say to the New Yorker, he said, quote, how kind I thought he was for saying it was just my leg he would shoot. Because I think Jan was like, I'll just graze it, and that'll, like, cause something to happen.
I'm going to shoot it in the air, and then when the barrel's hot, I'm going to, like, press it to your leg.
Yeah.
Let's all get bank vault tattoos.
Kristen even tries to convince Sven to allow it, because I think he's like, but my leg. And Kristen...
It's so much harder to cower when you can't squat.
And Kristen says, quote, but Sven, it's just in the leg. Eventually, Sven agrees and gets in position. I think they're probably going to, like, stage it or something.
What? What do you mean he gets in position?
I don't know. There are no more details than that.
Listen, I was like, I got to stop being so cavalier about this. But that is legitimately a, like, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia episode.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Olsson never follows through, so he's just, like, in position. And then it never...
just do it. I don't... Guys, the pizza's here. Let's not make a scene. Hi.
Yeah.
How are you? What's the weather outside?
And then Sven is quoted later saying, like, I still don't know why it didn't happen.
I want to see this, not on a movie. I don't think the movie would work out well, but I do think as a stage play, this is perfect.
Yeah. Yes, as a Shakespearean improv.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh
100%.
My God. We should go back and just shout that out as an option.
Yes, absolutely.
Buddy comedy, but it's a big property.
Shut up! I love it. Okay, so this was another note that I did not organize correctly. When the commissioner comes to do the health inspection, he also reports back to the parents. He's like, yeah, so I'm sorry that I never told you that your child was being held hostage. But they're fine, and I made sure. And so he, like, reports back to the parents. During each of the displays, Clark is super relaxed and even has, like, his arm around, like, some of them, like, showing camaraderie. And the commissioner reports all the hostages seemed physically fit, and they're all in They all entreated me to let them leave the bank premises together with Olsson and Olofsson. So all of them were like, let us go.
Is it big enough for all 6 of us? Can you count the chairs?
Yeah.
Is it like a middle bench seat in the front, or?
This is day 2. I want to remind you. We have 4 more
for
days.
them to fall in love.
After they're like, let us leave. And the police are like, no.
I know I've already made a Mamma Mia
Yeah.
reference, but this is like maybe it's not. At least in my mind, it made sense. This feels like when Amanda Seyfield's character is like, ... like, who's my dad?
Yeah, that really it does. And again, the hostages are feeling like their lives are not worth the demands that are being asked, although they did release a career criminal to another career criminal.
And got a lot of old money and a gassed up blue Mustang.
Yeah. So now we're in day 3. An officer sneaks down and closes the door of the vault from the outside. So now
what, suffocate them to death?
Now they're just like actually in a siege. Like they can't like leave at all. Phone contact at this point is just limited to the police. I'm not sure if like I think the only phone that's in there only goes upstairs maybe.
Okay.
But the phone that they had no longer has service or whatever. They were afraid. So here's the other thing is that Clark with his phone was just fucking calling the media.
Hey, do you want an exclusive? Yeah, but I got time.
He's like, yeah, I'm just being super charismatic and still winning people over.
I get why Jan wanted Clark there.
I would too.
Hey, Sydney. Yeah. No, how's your mom? No, I got time. I'm glad that's not. No, I was thinking about her in prison. Anyway, so you probably know what's going on, but I'd like to
I think that's actually what's happening, and that is one of the motivations for closing the door because they're like, Clark, you can't keep talking to the media.
Ryan Warner, CPR. Yeah, I love your work.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. They were afraid that unlimited media access to the criminals would give them a cult following.
That's how you know you are absolutely fucking up trying to rescue the hostages.
If you have to
Is
stop.
there like their PR is better than ours and they're holding hostages.
They're actively holding a bank up.
Sorry.
Then the other reason they closed the door is hoping that they would force them to form a bond of friendship, not realizing that they were already really close. And hoping that would prevent Jan and Clark from inflicting harm on their captives, even though that was like probably never gonna happen.
Right.
Niels Beherot, a psychiatrist, is the one that recommended they do this.
If we get them to like each other, they won't hurt each other. Which won't do us any good because we won't let them walk out with the hostages. But...
And the hostages are already fighting for the criminals.
They're like, boo, hiss, no boys allowed, get out.
That includes you, Sven.
Actually, Sven is injured if you want to take him. No, I'm not. Sven, get out of here.
Being a cockblock.
Have you seen Adie Bryant? Adie Bryant, she was so good on SNL.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Gosling was was the host one time, and Ryan Gosling played the dad, and Adie Bryant was like a girl at his daughter's sleepover.
Shut up.
And she was like, I forget what his name is. Let's just like be like Johnson. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, Mr. Johnson, do you like that? And she just like hardcore flirts with him.
I love that.
We'll have to watch it in between this and the Patreon.
Perfect.
It's so funny.
By the end of day 3, they're out of food. So Jan pulls out 3 pears from a previous meal and cuts them all in half to give everyone, taking the smallest piece for himself, which did not go unnoticed by the hostages.
These guys really do sound charming, and you don't give the Swedes that kind of credit.
Yeah, exactly. Days 4 and 5, we're going to lump together. Police begin drilling a hole into the vault.
That's a famously quiet activity.
From the top. From upstairs. And it became clear that they're going to pump tear gas through the hole that they have made. But they're drilling the hole under the pretense that they're going to try and get Jan to give up the submachine gun through the hole. Yeah, whatever.
Really gonna, like, lower a basket down, Hansel and Gretel style?
Later, they do lower a basket full of sandwiches.
No one ever mentions how fucking funny the Stockholm Syndrome stuff is. Everyone's like, oh yeah, you're in love with your captor? This is a legitimately hilarious story. Also, the way I would sue the government if I was being offered a road trip and instead got tear gassed. The way I'd be the Minister of Fisheries. The way they would have no more money left. And all in old, untraceable bills.
They're like, we wanted to go and now you're tear gassing us.
Men just hate to see women having a good time and succeeding in their field.
Yeah, literally. So at this point, Jan is like, fuck you guys. Like, what the fuck do you think you're doing? And so he has like loose nooses tied, puts them around the hostages' necks, attaches them to the top end of like the safe, and he's like, if they pass out from the tear gas, their death is on your hands.
And imagine the hostages are like, yeah, your hands, and they're like tightening it themselves.
Literally. And then the police are like, okay, we won't pump tear gas, and then immediately start drilling like 7 to 8 other holes.
Flood them. Yeah. They'll float.
But they do. That's when they lower the bucket of sandwiches down.
Nothing
through
to
the main
see
hole.
here.
Yes.
Those other holes are for the condiments.
Yes. Just hold the sandwich open. So the hostages, after a while, begin to get tired of like standing there, and so Jan tells them to like rotate. They only need one standing there as a threat. So.
No, every single story feels like a teacher solution. They're like, fuck, okay, no, you don't all, I just need one per group, and if all your names are on it, then that's fine. Just make sure your names are all on it before you turn it in.
Literally.
This is so relatable.
So he's like, we'll just like take turns standing in the nooses.
Sven, 12 hours. Everyone else, like 2.
Sven just asks if he can do the standing for all of them, so no one else has to stand.
Sven's like, you like me too, right, guys? And they're like, I mean, we don't want you to die, if that's what they're asking.
And Jan is quoted later saying he was a real man. He was ready to be a hostage for the hostages.
Can I ask you a real question?
Yeah.
Do any of them ever say a single mean thing about anyone?
They get a little confused at the end.
Is it the tear gas?
No, they like after
the
fact.
Okay.
Yes. After everything goes down, they're like, what the fuck? Is really what happened.
Oh, you mean they just gave him Clark without asking for any of us? I would be confused about that part too.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the end of the standoff. This is day 6. 7 holes have now been drilled into the ceiling. Shortly after, tear gas begins pouring in. They are worried. I think the hostages mentioned that they had been worried about like the effect of being tear gas for like more than 15 minutes or something like that. And so at some point, everyone's on their hands and knees coughing, and someone yells, "We give up." Or multiple people yell, "We give up." It says they heard voices yelling, "We give up." The police then call for the hostages to come out first, and the 4 captives refuse. They're saying, Enmark yelled, "No, Jan and Clark go first. You'll gun them down if we go first." And so they like refuse to, they want to keep protecting them.
Right.
And then when everyone is finally out of the vault, Jan and Clark embrace the hostages, and Mark and Oldgren hug and kiss the 2, like cheek kisses, I think.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
Autofill.
Sven shakes hands with them, and then Lundblad asks them to write her. I think there's a picture of her in a stretcher, like being carried out. I think this is her. I think at this point she's looking back at Clark.
And she's like, "Don't forget me. What we had is real."
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember which one this is, but it's just a absolutely iconic picture.
The way I wish I could have been in those groups those friend group chats. The way, if this happened to one of us in our group, we'd host a dinner.
To just have the debrief.
Like, everyone would walk in, we'd eat dinner, and then I'd walk around with, like, duct tape so we can all just listen to the person.
I'm in on that, actually. I'm absolutely... I'll be the bow in this situation. I'll tie him up.
Thank you. There's a speaking stick, and it's actually just like a knife, so you can go like, okay, but, like... Was it better? Like, right? Where was this? How hot was he?
Yes. Okay, so everyone's out of the vaults. They're like doing their farewells. The hostage situation ultimately lasts 100.
Like at summer camp.
Yeah, 130 hours, around 5.5 days, and both men, Jan and Clark, were returned to prison. Sorry, not released.
Sorry.
I was going to say released to prison, and that didn't make any sense.
I'm actually shocked they were sent back to prison, to be completely honest.
Me fucking too.
That Sweden was like, as your reward for not killing any of the hostages you took, we're not giving you any money, but we are giving you your freedom back.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah.
They were like, you get back in there for the rest of those 9 months.
You go. So the aftermath is what I titled this. The psychiatrist... Niels Beirut coins Stockholm Syndrome in the following year to describe the emotional ties between captive and captor. And the interesting fact about this is, looking it up now, although it's not recognized as like an official diagnosis, mostly because it's so vague that like there's not a set of symptoms that you can say like, okay, you're displaying this, and this, therefore you have Stockholm Syndrome. It's more like you have trauma bonding and PTSD and stuff like that. It's not like Patty Hearst had Stockholm Syndrome and therefore she did all this shit. It's like, it's very vague, and so it's not recognized. But it's also not just captive and captor. It can be like relationships, like any abuser that you have. Like if you have an abusive...
Weird power dynamics,
and you still feel like, no, but they didn't mean it like that. You know, like that kind of thing can also be defined as Stockholm Syndrome, which I thought was really interesting. The captive's reaction to the situation perplexed everyone, even the captives themselves. The public even went so far as to speculate that Kristen Enmark, the one who went on the phone with the prime minister, may have helped plan the robbery with Clark Olsson, which is like not true. But in talking to a psychiatrist following the release, I think they were all like kind of immediately taken to like therapy, it seems like, just to like talk it out. Like, what the
I
fuck?
like to imagine the police were like actually so pissed at them.
They were like,
they were
what
like,
do
go
you
get
mean?
some answers.
Yeah. Elisabeth Oldgren laments, is there something wrong with me? Why don't I hate them?
Oh, it's actually kind of really sweet and poetic.
Yeah. Psychiatrists compared the victim's behavior to shell shock exhibited by soldiers during wartime, saying they feel emotionally indebted to their abductors, not the police, for being spared death. And there are a lot of problems with like that comparison. It's just like not really accurate or fair to any party. But that's what they said at the time. Within months following the event, psychiatrists began referring to the phenomenon, as I said, as Stockholm Syndrome. It would become popular the following year in 1974 with the defense of Patty Hearst. See episode 29 and 30.
Wait, was that really 29 and 30?
I know. I went back and looked at it. Yeah.
Wow.
I know. Insane, right? Ironic that in your first 2-part episode, my episode then references my first 2-part episode.
All we've been doing is referencing all the episodes we've done so far.
And I love it.
We should start a podcast for all the information that we have.
Yeah, we should.
We start to review our own episodes.
Yeah. The source. Oh my God! It's
This
just
is
like
how you
it's
build
more
the
and more
universe.
divulged.
Yes, exactly.
Insane. Okay. After all this, the hostages still went to visit the jailhouse several times to visit Jan and Clark.
Sorry, Sven. They're both really busy today. They can't visit you.
Yeah, they can't.
I don't know why Sven has become the butt of our jokes. He was also a victim.
He was.
But also, we've painted a picture now.
It just feels right.
Yeah,
it feels right. Jan and Clark also received letters of admiration from many women while in jail. They both faced sentences. Obviously, I didn't write down what they both were, but ultimately an appeals court overturned Clark's conviction.
What?
In relation to the crime, because technically he was asked to go in by the police.
That's actually an amazing point.
Right? If the police hadn't taken him to the crime and told him to go in.
Wait. That's actually brilliant. Okay, hold on. I need to remember this. I'm going to pose this question to the class on Monday. I forget what question I'd asked them earlier, but they voted the wrong. Oh, I asked them the limb question from Out on a Limb. I'm like, you buy something and find a mummified leg in it. Is it yours or does it still belong to the person?
Because they're
who's
still
it from?
alive.
Right. And the kids are like, no, that's mine. That's my limb now. Legally, no.
No.
So I can't wait to ask him this
question.
The fact that the police put him in there really does kind of absolve
It really, yeah.
because he doesn't take him hostage initially.
If they didn't do anything, he would still be in prison. Theoretically, he has escaped several times, but not this time. It's just fucking
I
hysterical.
just imagine Clark in prison that day was like, "Oh, what? Oh,
Me?
I need to go somewhere." Well, I had no idea this was gonna happen. And it's like bed is made and like everything's organized.
He like has a note written. He's like,
exactly.
Oh, that escape plan that we had planned. Actually, I don't need it anymore.
Call my mom. She'll worry.
Yeah. Call my lover that's carrying my child that's housing Jan. So Jan Olsson was released in 1980. So that would be 7 years after the date of the crime.
That was Jan.
Yeah, Jan. And once he was freed, he married one of his many admirers who had wrote to him. He would then move to Thailand and publish an autobiography in 2009 called Stockholm Syndrome. Yeah, that's real. What? That's all real. A lot of them did publish books. I think one of them actually...
the book published, she's not shocking. It's the Thailand part.
Yeah,
that's
Thailand.
Insane.
Just for funsies.
If he ran like a restaurant or a bar,
I would go. I would go immediately.
Instantly.
Yeah, 100%.
We'd write it off.
Yeah, 100. That's a business expense, baby. Yeah. I think
Is he still alive?
I think so. I didn't come across anything that said he was dead. Yeah, let's go to Thailand. I think one of the victims also wrote a book that was titled like I Am Stockholm Syndrome or something like that. So I think it was actually Enmark. Kristen Enmark, the one who had moved to Stockholm for a fiance, wanted to become a social worker. After this, she actually became a psychotherapist.
Okay.
And she says that the relationship with Jan was more self-preservation than syndrome. She says, quote, I think it was a way of blaming the victim. All the things I did was instinct of survival. I wanted to survive. I don't think it's so off. What would you do?
So it's almost like a version of mob mentality.
Yeah.
This behavior got me this reward, which was less scary than what happened before.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to naturally keep going back to that. We all have little rat brains at the end of the day.
And one of the sources I saw actually claimed that Stockholm Syndrome could be an evolutionary tactic because back when we were still like cave people, right? There's not the chance of you being kidnapped by a neighboring clan or group.
New community leader, gotcha, following you.
Yeah, is not unheard of, and the best way to survive is by being relatable. Yeah, or like becoming a member of the group. So it's pretty interesting. Here's another quote from one of the articles that I read. The survival instinct is at the heart of Stockholm Syndrome. Victims live in enforced dependence and interpret rare and small acts of kindness in the midst of horrible conditions as good treatment. And then Stockholm Syndrome, while widely referenced and understood as a cultural term, is still not a part of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders or other texts establishing known psychiatric ailments. And now we're into final thoughts, which I just translated into Clark Olsson continued. But before I say that, here are my sources for today. The History Channel, The Washington Post, Time Magazine, Smithsonian Magazine, JSTOR, The Economic Times, The New Yorker, Listverse, the AP Archive, Film School Projects, AP News, another one from the Washington Post, an archived article from the New Yorker, an archived article from the New York Times, and an inflation calculator. Anyway, Clark Olsson continued. In 1975, so 2 years after the bank robbery that we just talked about, Clark robbed a bank in Denmark and then immediately boarded a boat for an adventure around the Mediterranean.
Wait. Really?
Yeah.
He like robbed the bank, got away with it,
yeah,
and then sailed to Greece?
Yeah.
And he's still like out and about walking around?
This is We just started this.
Okay.
When he returned to Sweden, he was arrested and sentenced, but he escaped from prison.
Of course.
Another manhunt.
Was he out on furlough and just didn't come back? Because I don't think you can call that escaping.
No, I think he just escaped.
Okay.
I think at this point they're like, this man does not go on furlough. I don't care how good he's being. This led to another manhunt throughout Europe, but this time... another manhunt, but this time through Europe, not just Sweden. And he ended up in Belgium, where he met his future wife on a train to Germany. They would marry in 1976 and have
his future wife he met on the run.
Mm-hmm.
But how old was he at the time?
He would have been... He was born in... He was born in the early 50s. So like 30-ish.
Ready to settle down.
Yeah. 30 to 40.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. They would marry and have 3 kids. In 1976, a year later, he robbed a bank in Gothenburg. It was the largest criminal exchange in Swedish history at the time. He was arrested a few hours after this crime, but he escaped from prison 3 weeks later. He got access to a truck and drove it through the gates of the prison.
That'll do it, babe.
That'll do it. That'll fucking do it, my
also,
dude.
there's a town in Nebraska called Gothenburg
Oh,
because
I
it's
love
just
that.
a bunch of Swedes.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's really cute. After he was released from prison, I'm assuming he was caught again, in parentheses, he vowed to change his life.
He has a wife he needs to see more regularly.
Yeah, probably, and 3 children. In 1979, he went to college to study journalism, but it wasn't for him, so he never finished. In 1980, he was on a boating trip where he got into a fight with some fishermen and got a 2-year sentence. He was released. He served that sentence. He was released in 1991. He had a few more minor grievances with the law after that: drunk driving, planning a bank robbery.
Sure.
In 1998, the year I was born, he was arrested in Denmark for leading an international drug smuggling operation. I'll remind you, in 1979, not that much before this, he vowed to change his life.
That's also quite an escalation. At least in my mind, I'm like, bank robbery. I mean, it's not good, but that's almost
well, now
cartoonish
his knees
criminal.
hurt, so he needs to do a lot more sitting and ordering. Drug smuggling.
Ordering of drugs, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. He was caught smuggling 14 kilos of amphetamine.
Oh my God.
I think into Denmark at this point.
What was he going to do? Provide drugs for all of Denmark?
I think so. He was sentenced to 14 years. It was the biggest sentence for a drug offense in the country at the time.
Right.
He was released in 2006. In 2008, Swedish police discover he's the center of a narcotics gang. Authorities catch him smuggling cannabis from the Netherlands.
Why do they keep letting him out? Why don't they just
I don't know.
Why they're this time it's forever?
Letting him out early too, because he's arrested in 1998. He's released in 2006, so that's only
He spent,
8
8
years.
Yeah.
That's half of his sentence. I don't even know if he was given the sentence in 1998. That's insane. He was sentenced to 14 years again, and lifetime expulsion from Sweden.
They're do not come back into this country.
He was
how Sweden's oh no, prison can contain you, so don't come back.
Don't come here. He was released that time in 2018 and has kept his head down ever since. Granted, at this point, he's 71.
That we know of.
Yeah, in 2018. And he regained his citizenship upon his release and claimed he was going to enjoy being a pensioner.
Regained his Swedish citizenship?
Yeah.
What pension? What job has he worked that's earned him a pension?
I don't know. That is a direct quote from him. He was going to enjoy being a pensioner. That's that story.
A phenomenal job.
Thank you.
If you would have told me at the start, we're going to learn about Stockholm Syndrome, I would have been okay, so really sad, really serious.
No, suddenly Stockholm Syndrome, I think at one point, one of the symptoms of Stockholm Syndrome, if you ask the FBI specifically, it's distaste for the authorities.
If I ask the FBI one question my lifetime, the question's going to be, where are those paintings?
That's true.
Where are those paintings? But if I get a second question,
That'll be it.
that'll be that one. I get it.
I do
think,
too.
I think that was a wonderful story. It ends actually super anticlimactically.
Yeah.
But part of me also wonders too if they were like, they're clearly not budging. Maybe we've played this out. If we like walk out now, like forced out from the tear gas, right? Like, you know, we can kind of leave with our honor intact. They're just going to keep drilling holes. And then part of me is also like, who's responsible to pay for all that damage?
I don't know.
And also funny that they're like, and they got sent to prison for like a year, which was actually 7 months because of good behavior.
Literally. Dude, Clark has a chokehold on whoever, on the warden of whatever prison he's in.
Do you think they kept releasing him just to justify having police?
Yeah,
like,
I think so.
If he's not on the streets, what
are
crimes
the police
are
doing?
we solving?
Yeah.
And as we've seen earlier, they're not good at solving it yet. Practice makes perfect.
They need practice, and they need Clark to teach them.
I just want to point out, too, the like lack of response time to families. I have to communicate with my advisees' families every 2 weeks.
Oh, my God.
And that's with them not being held hostage. It took them almost a full week as hostages.
It took them at least 3 days that we know of to communicate that they were healthy and well. I'm not sure if they ever at any point were like, hey,
just so you know.
Just so you know.
Or at this point they were like, well, now that the names are on television, they probably
Now
know.
that your daughter has already contacted you.
Right.
So you know.
Right.
Hello. Thank you for listening to our episode and for making it this far. And if you're actively pressing the stop button, I don't blame you. We are Well I Laughed on all social media, and also that's our podcast name. And then we're also Well I Laughed Podcast on Patreon if you want to like maybe get more content, and then get on Discord and we'll interact with you when I have the emotional capacity. Grant will interact with you more probably.
That's not true.
Or
you interact more.
Or Casey will. I don't know.
Why am I interjecting? This is the closing speech.
All of us will interact a reasonable amount to not be creepy, but still see everything that you post and love you all.
It's actually crazy watching you do the speech. I now realize how often I do the speech.
Can I finish the fucking speech?
I didn't say you couldn't. I'm just saying it's crazy to watch happen.
And if you want to email us, we love getting little anecdotes. We love praise because we're both those kinds of people.
And please allow 3 to 5 business months for us to get back to you.
Yeah, because it's Grant that's responding mostly. I sort them into the categories of folders.
I have 4 emails I have to respond to
and
now.
then mark as unread so that Grant sees them again. We're wellifepod@gmail.com. And if you have any stories that you would like for us to read either on the podcast or off the podcast, please send them in. Our next theme is The Hills We Die On. And we'll probably do a listener episode for that, and we'll read stories. And even if we don't read yours for this story, we might read it for another story. And please, if you do that, let us know if we can use your name and what your pronouns are. And I think that's it.
And
I
we
don't
laughed.
actually know. Yeah, please rate us 5 stars and review. And I laughed at all the stupid shit the fucking cops did. What did you laugh at today,
Just
Grant?
listen to it. I love you. This is fantastic.
Aw, that's so
Bye.
kind.
I'm not going to say anything else.
All right.